It's Friday, January 31st, 2025. Let's start off, as we typically do, by telling you that if you'd like to support our show, it's very simple. All you have to do is go to supportourshow.com, and you will find an array of support options there. And let's see, this will be coming out. I'm just trying to time this correctly. Yes, so the newest Late Night, which is the first part of what I believe will be a 4-part Star Trek retrospective in total, meaning 4 parts. The first 3 are going to be roughly 4 hours each. Last one is just going to be Star Trek Generations. That will be coming out on February 3rd. Yeah, because it's yes, the calendar is weird for this. Because both February and March, the first Monday is the 3rd, which is an odd thing. Usually the month apart is not the same exact day number. So the first part will be out on February 3rd. On YouTube, it's going to be censored. If you're watching the video version, if you go to Patreon, even at the free level, you can watch it uncensored, meaning you're seeing the clips. We don't talk any differently. It's the same cursing and everything. There is no difference in the actual runtime. Just because I know censored, uncensored makes it seem like I cut content. I didn't cut content. I had to block out the video clips. So you'll still hear the audio, but you would not see the imagery, which in this case I think all of them are important, but in this one particularly, where Doug and I keep saying that we're defending William Shatner's acting ability, much of his acting prowess is nonverbal. So the fact that they cut the clips makes it less impactful when we're saying, see, he's actually a good actor, when he just kind of restrains himself. When you just see a big image that says scene missing because copyright sucks, it does dilute the message a little bit. So I would encourage you, if you're watching the video one, if you're listening to the audio one, it doesn't matter. But if you're going to watch the video one, go to Patreon and join it for free. Or you can pay something, but I'm saying you can watch it for free. You do not have to pay. And then you will see the clips, because thankfully, Patreon just doesn't care. So anyway, it will be available in the audio-only version on the main feed, so you'll get it there. If you don't want to watch the video, that's going to be there. The YouTube will have the video version just with the censored parts, or the blocked or obstructed video, I guess. And then Patreon will have the unobstructed video. So just something I wanted to point out.
I wanted to amend your support element here. Very soon there will no longer be a way to support me. I am breaking ties with Amazon because fuck Bezos. And my books will no longer be available at all. I don't know if they're going to be available again in the near future, but I have realized that it's time to start basically using my money to make my political vision seen. And I have a strong fuck Bezos personality. So I'm just I'm effectively ending my writing career. Which is fine, because no one was really reading them anyway. So it's not really.
But you don't need Amazon for that. You could still do the audiobook, and people could support you through Patreon. You don't have to have the Amazon book.
People aren't going to support it. Listen, you are such an optimist. It's actually very adorable. I know that there's areas of your life where you're a huge pessimist, but there's areas of your life where you're a huge optimist. And I've realized recently that I am not an optimist, but I'm not a pessimist either, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I I learned a new term that I didn't know. And I was like, oh, I was like, that's me, which is basically there's a great term. And I'm going to, I'm going to thank that philosophy magazine that I was reading for the longest time, because I had all these articles that piled up, and I finally read this one. I linked to it at some point in my Twitter, which I'm also getting rid of. But there is a term called meliorism. Meliorism.
Wait. Start. M-E-L.
Meliorism. I think it's pronounced meliorism. And meliorism is kind of like, everything's fucked, but you think you can make it better. And it's not optimism where you sit there and you say it'll work out, or pessimism where you're like, it's not going to work out. Meliorism is basically, it's fucked, but we can make it better. And I realize that's what I am. Like I can acknowledge that everything is fucked, and then I can say, yeah, but we can try to improve it.
Well, that's what I am.
And that's where I am. Well, there you go.
I wouldn't consider myself an optimist, because
you are at times though with things.
Well,
things
no.
Like
I think for me, what the difference, because like you're talking about how I'm ending my writing career because no Amazon, then I'm not going to bother with Patreon because nobody's supporting me. And to me, I'm not optimistic saying anybody will.
Listen,
but
Patreon will be there, but I don't expect anything. And listen,
but
I don't
cost
make
you
any
anything,
money.
so why not? That's kind of my
but I don't make any money off this. And for the longest time, I have lived a life that has allowed me to kind of like have this fantasy while doing other things. But I also find myself moving into a phase of life where I may not have time for that fantasy anymore. My wife works in books and some video editing, essentially, and the world that she occupies is beginning to push out the idea of books. They don't think that people want to read anymore, and they want to push everything to video, which means that editing work is beginning to dry up a little bit. So I may very soon be shifting into another phase of life where I don't have the time for even these kinds of artistic fantasies. So I just kind of looked at the situation currently as it is in this incredibly fucked up timeline that we find ourselves. And I said, you know what? Nobody give a shit anyway. I'm just pulling the books. Fuck Bezos. And fuck Amazon. Like, I am no longer doing business with Amazon of any kind. I'm not ordering from them. If I want something and they have it, I'm just going to find the source and cut them out. Because the thing is, you know what? Bezos doesn't have to be as rich as he is. Like, I know that he's got his hands in a lot of different areas now. But if you can take money away from him, take money away from him. He doesn't deserve it. I didn't mind them when he was just a bookstore. But now that he's like a fucking, asshole to everybody, I mean, even to his own people, it's not like he does good things. So I'm just pulling it all. I'm just saying no. We live in a country now where apparently money equals speech. So you speak with your money. So I'm saying fuck you by not giving
that
my
was
money.
a Supreme Court decision from how many years ago. So that's not new.
Exactly.
This is just the end point of it.
So I am like I said, I just realized there was no point to it, and then that kind of led into this bigger kind of mindset of, well, is it really worth doing anymore, especially when there's so little time and there's going to be less time in my life and it's not actually bringing me any money. And like, I'm not saying that I may not find myself jotting things down in a notebook here and there, but the organized attempt at pursuing this line of thought is over. And the thing is, listen, I'm 45. I got to have this fantasy for a long time. I wanted to be a writer since I was in sixth grade, and I'm 45 and I still haven't made it. I'm not going to make it. It's not going to happen. And I am being sober enough about it to say, yeah, you know what? It's time to put this effort into something else that might actually prove, might have some more fruition than that. And it's not me saying that I'm a bad writer. I actually think that I'm pretty good now. I do think that my previous works are weak. And also, you know what? I realize they're very bleak. Doing the audio project has really made me realize how bleak some of my old work is. And the thing is, like, it's not like I have, I don't really have support for my writing. Like, I don't have a group of people that I write with. My wife doesn't read my books. She is not a fan of my genre. My kids are too young, and I don't want them reading my books anyway. And, you know, it's like, and you read my book. It's a one-off experience. So there's no community for it. There's no support for it. This isn't a bang. This is kind of a whimper, you know? So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I was like, this is the least most fucked up thing going on in my life right now. But it is an end. It is an end. And I don't know if I'm going to bother after this, because it's very easy. Writing is like working out. It's very easy to stop. And then once you stop, it's very hard to get back into it because you don't give a shit. Like, I mean, you're not really a fitness person, but,
No.
yeah, like, but I work out like 4 to 5 days a week. And then when I take time off, like when I travel or if I get hurt, you know, and I take off a few weeks, when it's time for me to start back up again, my body doesn't want to. My body's like, no, it's nice to not be, you know, beaten up. And I'm like, no, we're doing this. Come on, fucker. But like, no, I always say to my wife, it's like, nobody cares. Like, that's the funny thing about fitness. Nobody cares if you're fat or if you're healthy. They just don't want you to drop dead of a heart attack. But at the end of the day, nobody makes me work out. I make me work out. But if it's so easy for me to just not. I mean, nobody makes you work out, and you don't.
Correct.
Right? And your wife works out, but you don't make her work out. She makes herself work out, right? Yeah, so that's the thing. It's this funny thing. And writing is kind of like that with me, where it's like, nobody makes me write. Nobody gives a shit if I write. So if I just don't, then, you know, it just goes away, and it goes away like it was never there in the first place. So, yes. So there's no support anymore for Lando. Those books are coming off Amazon. That whole link is going to go away. And, yeah. So support the show. Support Joe. That's important.
Well, you can still support the Patreon. So, yeah.
Whatever.
Hey.
And beyond that, politically, things are pretty fucked right now in the U.S. I don't like to get largely political when we do the show. And I'm not going to get largely political now, but there's one thing that pissed me off so much. And I think it was just the cherry on top of the shit sandwich with all the other weird shit that's going on, and the delusion and everything. And I mean, I'm just very irritated with what's going on in this country right now. But it was this one thing that very much flew under the radar that I found out about by accident. And then when I found out, I was like, what? So in the Air Force, they are no longer teaching. The Trump administration ordained that they are no longer going to teach the Air Force about the Tuskegee Airmen or the WASPs. Do you know who the WASPs are?
Oh, yeah, I know who both of them are. I read the same article. I'm sure you did.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I knew who they were before, but I saw that and I was like, wow, it's the erasure of history, isn't that something?
Yes, it's such a blatant attempt to erase the history of women and black men in World War II. And it just, it made me so sick to just be like, what the fuck? Really? I was like, this is this big danger to you? It's like the Tuskegee Airmen were incredible pilots, and they did an incredible job in World War II. Especially since nobody fucking wanted them there. You know, they were swimming against the current. And the same with women. You know, women couldn't be combat pilots. And the WASPs basically helped to repair planes, transport them, test them, you know, like, which was a highly dangerous job that they let them do because, you know, we can't let them be fighter pilots. And it's like, no, instead you're letting them test ships to make sure, or planes to make sure they aren't broken. And these are some pretty valiant women. Like, if you don't know anything about the WASPs or the Tuskegee Airmen, and you are interested at all in World War II history, or just the history of minorities, you should look them up. It's an incredible read.
I will have a link in the show notes.
Yeah. And the fact that they felt the need to pull this, like this was like a specific thing that somebody was like, yeah, we should really pull that out of there. That they went looking for this to pull it. I was just like, oh, fuck you. I was like, fuck you and everything else you're doing. It is astounding. I mean, I don't even need to get into the Elon Musk's Nazi salute. And honestly, watching people try to backpedal that and be like, "Oh, it was a Roman salute. He's not a Nazi." I'm like, the motherfucker went to Germany and told them, and went to like essentially a Nazi,
a far right, yeah,
a far right thing, and told them, don't feel bad about your history. Be proud of your history. And I'm like, yeah, be proud of some of it, but some of it's not that great. In the same way that, listen, American history, there's shit you should be proud of, and there's shit you should look at and go, what the fuck were we doing? Right? So
yeah.
I was maintaining a level of like equilibrium, but then for some reason that the Tuskegee Airmen Wasp thing just irritated the fuck out of me, and I'm like, man, you're just trying to erase people from history. You're trying to rewrite history, and it's so frightening to watch them do this. And I mean, at the same time, you've got DeSantis trying to take over. Was it liberal state colleges in Florida? Did you read about this?
I did see that. Yes.
They just took over another one, and the guy he's putting in charge is this guy who's quoted as saying that women should be at home having babies and they have no place in the workplace. And I'm like, dude, 60% of that college is female. Like, is that your advice? You women shouldn't be here anyway. Like the return of blatant misogyny and just outright racism is just astounding. So I fall back on the idea of, if somebody wants you to not read something, if somebody tries to hide something from you, then it's one of the first things you should read about. Don't let people manipulate your history. Don't let them erase things that are important to understand. Yeah, I just like I'm baffled and ill with this kind of Mickey Mouse bullshit. And I think my response, you sit there and you go, what can I do? And like you can volunteer, you can stand up for things that you believe in, but you can also do what they do. Speak with your money, right? Wherever you are consciously aware and are capable, don't give your money to these people. Don't give your money to Bezos or Musk. I'm sorry if you drive a Tesla. I mean, the fact that people feel the need to put a sticker on their car that says we bought our Tesla before Elon went crazy. You're like, yeah, exactly.
It does.
Yeah. So
I mean, it does.
Speak with your money.
It does tell you something that people are doing that.
Oh yeah, there's a sense of
look,
like,
I do feel bad for those people because, yeah, there are people who there was a point where he seemed to be doing something that was positive. That he was, and to be fair, because you do have to, you can't suddenly just, we're just talking about history erasure, right? So Tesla and his boosting of the company early on before he went off the deep end, or was off the deep end, but we didn't know, is one of the primary reasons why electric cars had a surge. So it's unfortunate because Tesla was a beneficial force in electric car sales, and
but the thing is, like I said, he didn't start that company. He bought that.
No,
company.
I'm not saying he did, but he
sold it though.
Well, in what unfortunately we know now is a toxic way, he went insanely overboard, enthusiastically pushing it everywhere, and basically, because there's a common story, we've talked about this before, that comes out for people who work for an Elon company when they leave. And they talk about it, and they say, at first, you want to work 24/7 for him because he's telling you can change the world. And you do, and then you realize that he don't matter to him, and that he is fine if you work yourself to death. Right? So he had, I don't know about now, but he had this kind of infectious enthusiasm where he did. You do have to credit also his boosting of it to even his own people. And if you think about it, when somebody comes in, has a bunch of money, and says to you, I'm going to fund us changing the world, and you don't realize what that's actually going to mean, a year from then, where he still expects you to sleep in the factory.
Well, if you read about
you're going to
Tesla,
work yourself to death.
You'll read about how they created a whole, basically, workforce around keeping him away from the technology of the car.
Well, yeah. Well, yes.
Yeah, by basically managing him as the insane investor, which is what Twitter did not have. Twitter did not have the framework for that. So when he arrived, he just fucking,
Yeah. But he was going out there basically telling people that Tesla was going to be the future and getting people to buy into it.
Honestly, listen.
So you do have to credit where it is due. The problem is there's a flip side to that, and it's the same thing we're seeing in a lot of places, which is those people who don't actually do any of the work will then expect you to just become literal grist on the floor to realize what they think should happen with no consideration of you as a person. And that's the other side of it.
Then they want all the adulation at being a genius.
Well, generally they want to take some credit, but even if they don't, some people are, it's not even that. It's just this idea that this vision is worth dying for, and not everybody is into that. So, video games have this problem. Lots of industries have this problem where you find out that, they expect you to... there's a thing where, and it's really insidious, and it happens a lot, where people, you can't compel overtime to a certain degree. You can, you can't. But you generally can't in most places. So what they do is they foster this idea that, you should work a little bit extra because otherwise the rest of your team who feels pressure because they can't afford to lose their jobs, well, we're going to make them do it. And so you're letting them down. Even though, no, you're not doing that. The company's doing it, but then you feel bad. Yeah.
But no,
so
it's
all
your fault.
The same thing.
Your fault.
Yes.
They're having to work harder.
You're the quitter. You're the one bailing. You're the one screwing over the team. And a lot of people, understandably, fall for that. And it's garbage because that's bad management. There's just no reason for it. Of course, sometimes things happen, but those should be aberrations. Those should be very rare.
Yeah, not the norm.
Something unexpected happens. Yeah, and it should be, something that might happen to you once or twice in your entire career somewhere, not every couple months. Suddenly you have, in video games, crunch is just a widespread thing. Even in companies that say they're not doing it, where these people are working almost every day of the week. In fact, the only reason they're not working every day of the week is it's illegal, although who knows for how much longer, under labor laws. No, seriously. I mean, I don't know what
listen,
what's going to happen.
I'm laughing because the thing is, you don't know what's going to happen.
No, we have no idea. Yeah.
That's what's so fucked up about it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that a lot of the people who voted for somebody thinking this was going to benefit them are starting to realize that they're going to get hit with a lot of things. Well, I can't feel bad for you. Sorry.
I told Joe about this before. We were talking about when we were playing a game recently, but I'll share it here because it does baffle me. It is another thing that fucking baffles me, which is I was reading recently about how one of the only corporate markets that pays attention to global warming is insurance companies, and that insurance companies are paying close attention to all the science, and they don't care about saving the planet. They only care about making money. And the thing is, as an insurance company, the whole idea is we want the money to come in, and then we don't have to pay anything out. So it's a gamble for them, but they've basically made it so that they don't have, much like health insurance. You pay them for your whole life, and then when you need assistance, they let you die, right? So, but what's fucking weird about all this is that even while insurance companies are pulling out of flood insurance in Florida and fire insurance in California, even as they're fucking people over, the other thing that they appear to be doing is not insuring big oil the way they used to. In fact, they have turned around and they have actually nixed a few big projects from oil companies because they sit there and go, no, there's no future in this. We potentially could lose a lot of money here because, oil doesn't have the same future that it used to. And if you don't have the proper insurance, you can't build some of these mines. You can't build some of these, you you can't drill for oil if you don't have the insurance. Everybody needs the insurance for these things. So in this weird, fucked up way, insurance companies, because of their absolute greed, are actually slowing down oil companies in such a way that, like, no amount of people yelling at them has done in the past. And I told Joe, it's like discovering that there's another level of hell beneath Judas and the devil that's occupied by people that are so evil that they don't even want to help the evil people. And that might be the thing that helps to save the planet. And I'm like, man, it is so fucked up. Like, it just takes things to a whole new level of we're so greedy that we don't even want to help these bad guys because we actually believe the science and there's no money in it. So and you look at that and you're like, how could this be our ray of hope? Like like it's just so like just insane that's the world that we're living in, where nobody else gives a shit. But the insurance companies, who are actively fucking destroying people's lives, are sitting there going, yeah, we're not paying for you guys anymore in the oil industry. No, that's just not a good investment anymore. And that is slowing them down. So I've said to Joe recently, I think we're living in the wrong timeline. We went down a weird side timeline, and it just feels very strange now. Like, I think they call it a stump. I think that's what they call it in the periphery, the Gibson books. We're living in a stump, which is basically an alternate timeline where things took a different turn, right? It feels like that because it doesn't feel normal. But at the same time, because I have done so much history at this point and I have kind of a wider view of history than I used to, I know that things are this fucked up. I know that things have always been this fucked up, that we as a race are just this fucked up. You just never know where something is going to come from that is going to save and or fuck the day, right? So I shouldn't be surprised that insurance companies may slow down global warming through their greed. But I just don't know what's going to happen next at this point. We're definitely living in strange times.
That's one word for it, I suppose. But as a bit of a segue away from the doom into something just weird and funny and interesting.
From the doom.
For a bit. Speaking of alternate versions of things, I'm going to send you an image in Skype, and I want you to tell me what it's of.
All right.
So I'm sending this now, and you tell me what you see there. Should be through at this point.
Yep, no, I'm looking at it.
Okay. Who is that? Do you know the character?
Theoretically, what I'm looking at is Wile E. Coyote.
Okay. Yes. That's what you would think.
Theoretically, that's what I'm looking at.
Right. And what you're actually looking at is, and I didn't know this. Now this recontextualizes some stuff from my youth, which I never knew. What you're looking at is an image of Ralph Wolf, who is a Warner Brothers character. Now, don't look anything up on this. Have you ever heard of Ralph Wolf?
No.
Okay. The only difference that you would know visually is, and I'm not kidding, Wile E. Coyote's nose is black and Ralph's is red. Otherwise, they're the same character.
Isn't Wile E. Coyote's ears smaller?
No, if you look it up, he's literally exactly the same. However, they're also massively different in what their characters are. Now, Wile E. Coyote, we're doing a deep dive here, everybody, so strap in, right? Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. I don't know that the Roadrunner has ever exhibited any particular attitude towards Wile E. Coyote outside of just messing with him. But I don't think he really...
Wait, you just said Wile E. Coyote and Wile E. Coyote.
Oh, sorry. I don't know that the Roadrunner has expressed any real knowledge or intent towards Wile E. Coyote other than the fact that Wile E. Coyote chases him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He doesn't maliciously go after him.
As far as we know, I've never seen anything that indicates there's a mindset. You bastard. Yeah. Right. Whereas Wile E. Coyote is viciously obsessed with catching the Roadrunner to the exclusion of everything else. Right.
Which honestly, I will say this. There was a point in my life where I sat there and I said, with all the money he spends on Acme equipment,
Yes.
why doesn't he just take himself out to dinner?
Yeah. No. Right. But
Right.
so in theory, if this universe was real of Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner,
Yeah.
all they do all day is go back and forth with Wile E. Coyote chasing the Roadrunner and the Roadrunner trying to evade him. But in theory, if Wile E. Coyote caught him, he would either kill him and eat him or something, but it wouldn't be good. Right? But that's their lives.
Well, it's like Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny. If Elmer Fudd ever
Yes.
caught Bugs Bunny, it would be to eat him.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Ralph Wolf is a completely different story. Ralph Wolf tries to steal and theoretically eat sheep that are guarded by a character named Sam Sheepdog.
By the Shaggy Dog.
Right. Now, did you think, as I did when I was younger, that was the same coyote?
No.
Oh, wow. See, I thought they were the same. I didn't realize that they are actually at work. That is their job.
Yeah. No, because
out.
I remember that they would the big Shaggy Dog character and the wolf, I guess his name is Wolf, would clock in and they would talk to each other.
Yeah, so I saw that, but I thought this was supposed to be Wile E. Coyote doing something else. I didn't realize
I knew that there was a different character. Yeah, I didn't realize that the only difference. I just figured that. Honestly, I just thought that they were using stock imagery and this putting it into it, contextualizing it into a new situation, which is something that a lot of cartoonists did. Because have you seen that shot from Jungle Book that it's like the same shot in Winnie the Pooh?
It's yes.
They reuse stuff and they probably sat there and said, well, what's the difference between a coyote and a wolf? And somebody was like, I don't know, nothing. And they were like, okay, well, we'll change the nose color, and there you go. Plus the wolf talks and the coyote doesn't.
Oh, no. Okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry, the wolf. Yeah. Yes, you're right. They talk.
The wolf talks.
Yeah.
Coyote doesn't.
Yeah. No, I agree. I realized that one was talking and the other wasn't, but I thought they were just from different eras where something changed. Because there has been that. But no, they're literally the exact same.
I knew they were different characters.
Yeah, they're the same art, except yes, the wolf has slightly darker hair. Not that you would ever really realize that in a cartoon, and a red nose. Otherwise, same thing. But they are. I don't know that most people know that that's a different thing. The way that, outside of the fact that, like I said, I thought, okay, the Sam Sheepdog stuff was either before or after the Roadrunner stuff, that they decided to change it because they were getting bored of the Roadrunner stuff. So I just assumed, because I didn't pick up on the red nose. I mean, I just thought, because animation, let's be honest, of a certain era isn't exactly consistent all the time. Colors change, and it sometimes looks really rough.
Oh, no. So, another thing is that, and also they're always trying to cut corners where they can.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's why sceneries are often overused with slight changes.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look, there are lots of people saying, aren't these the same character? And, well, essentially, yes, though Ralph likes sheep and Wile E. is Roadrunner crazy. Yeah, okay. So, yeah.
Yes, and Wolf does not have as many, he does not seem to have an Acme account.
No, although I did see, the only reason I know about this is I was watching a video about a PlayStation 1 game featuring Ralph Wolf that most people think it's a Wile E. Coyote game, and they don't know why he's fighting a sheepdog. It's actually supposed to be a very, very good game. But in that he is ordering Acme
used to
products.
Punch the shit out of him.
Well, yeah,
I remember that.
That's the thing.
That sheepdog was like, he was big and slow, but when he got his hands on you, kicked the shit out of you. Yeah. That was the one that had like the little tuft of reddish hair on the top that would cover his eyes.
Yeah, and then he would lift it up sometimes.
Giant Popeye arms. Yeah.
Yeah, he's basically Bluto as a dog. Yeah. I mean, he is. So.
No, I mean, and listen, I
don't know.
And the difference between the two of them is that, like, Wile E. Coyote, when you watch Wile E. Coyote, there's something admirable about the fact that he always fails. He always fails, and yet he keeps trying, right? There's something admirable about that. I mean, fatalistic, but admirable. I mean, and the fact that he has infinite lives helps, right? Whereas with the wolf, what was fascinating about that is that when they were on the job, they were enemies, but when they were not on the job, they were friendly with each other. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that was. Yeah. That's where I thought what they were trying to do was something different with him, because again, he seems to be psychotically, murderously obsessed with the Roadrunner, whereas with what I thought was the same character. I'm like, oh no, he can actually just be kind of normal with somebody. And this way, he doesn't come off as a complete failure every single time because they just clock out. So it's like, oh, it's just a job now. So, or I thought maybe that he finally went crazy at his job and became obsessed with the Roadrunner, and that was his later life.
He just had a nervous breakdown.
Well, there is something sort of interesting about the idea of a character that completely changes later.
You can have it. You can have whatever kind of headcanon you want.
Yeah, but like I said, I didn't know they were different characters. I didn't know. So
I mean, I couldn't have named them, but I knew they were different characters.
Oh, not only would I not have been able to name them, I didn't know they were different.
Yeah, because I mean, I do remember from my youth that there was a period of, there were times where there were almost like these one-off Looney Tunes cartoons where it was like they had an idea for something, and they used something they had stock, and you would see like kind of one-off characters. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that at some point or another I saw like some sort of cat character that looked like somebody else. And then but it was like a one-off, like a one-off story, and then because they had their known characters, but I wonder when they began to have the known characters versus just kind of spitballing whatever they could make. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was something because obviously when this stuff started.
Hold on.
I mean, a lot of it, I think, started as being like in between movie type stuff, shorts and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if somebody was literally sitting in the theater to see who laughed at what and said, well, okay, we're keeping that. Because you're right. There are lots of little throwaway things and secondary characters that never show up again
so
or only show up once in a while.
You can look up one-time characters from Looney Tunes that they didn't use again.
Oh, man. Let's see.
I mean, it's not that bad, but yeah, there's a lot of them. Does it say how many there are? But yeah, there's a lot of one-time characters that they had. I mean, at the top of the list, they just have some of the main ones, like Charles Wolf, who apparently is a one-time character in a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Here we go. Yeah. One-time characters, only one appearance. Yeah, Charles Wolf. Don't know who that is.
But if you scroll down...
Vulture? Oh, man. I can see why they only used him once.
But if you scroll down, you can see there's a whole bunch of random characters.
The Carrot Monster. I don't remember that one.
The Ghost of William Shakespeare.
Pierre LePew. What the hell is that? Oh boy. Let's see.
And this seems to be across the lifetime though of Looney Tunes.
Oh, it is.
Michael Jordan.
Modern,
Michael Jordan's in there.
yeah. A lot of these seem to be more contemporary.
Yeah.
Oh, not Dopey Dick though. Dopey Dick.
Hold on. Where's
is
Dopey
a man-eating shark who's been chasing Yosemite Sam since he was stranded on an island for 20 years. Wow. 1956. A male shark named Dopey Dick.
Dopey Dick.
Wow. A play on Moby Dick. All right. Look at that. That's a hell of a character design. Oh boy. Dopey Dick.
Yep.
Wow.
Dopey
Gunner
Dick.
the Conqueror. Oh, that's newer. Homer Pigeon.
Oh, there's Bill Murray.
You know what? I think I remember Homer Pigeon. I sort of remember the Dopey Pigeon.
I showed my kids Groundhog's Day for the first time. And their reaction was fascinating because I didn't tell them anything about it. That's number one. Which, I mean, that's almost fun to go into that movie and not know what's going on, and then suddenly have it loop on them, and they were like, "What's going on?" That was very fun. But they were obsessed with trying to figure out how long he was there, and they were trying to count every time there was a loop. Because you know what? When he's doing all the dates with Rita, he keeps it keeps skipping to the next day and the next day and the next day because he keeps fucking things up and he wants to fix it. And then there's when he's getting slapped and stuff like that. And they were trying to count and they lost it finally because there was just so much going on. But I told them afterwards that we would look it up. And they loved the movie. They thought it was very funny, and they were really interested in this idea of just the endless days and this kind of arc that Bill Murray goes through, where at first he's trying to trick Rita into loving him, and then he realizes that he can't trick her, and then he's depressed, and then he kills himself a million times. And the thing is, like, the thing that screwed their count up was when he's in the diner and he starts talking about all the ways that he's died. And my kids were like, "Well, they haven't filmed that." And I'm like, "Right." I was like, "You have to take into account that there may be days that you're not even seeing here." And afterwards, we looked it up, and Harold Ramis said that
It's supposed to be 1,000 years, wasn't it?
no. Harold Ramis said that he felt it was 30 to 40 years, right?
Okay.
Later on, they said there was the potential idea that he could have been there for up to 1,000 years.
All right, that's what it was. Okay.
But originally, Ramis, before he died, said that he thought that it was about 30 to 40 years that he was there. But yeah, they really enjoyed it. They liked it a lot, and they kept. I love that movie because it's such a fascinating way to kind of get into this, almost like it's such a sly way to kind of get into this idea of like karma and cycles and you know why not be a good person.
You have
know
never
what I mean?
thanked me. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, I love that. When he
Maybe.
exactly. Yeah, maybe. But my favorite line from that movie is still when he's sitting there and he goes, "Oh, is it a bird, a truck? Is it? No,
A dog
it's
barks.
a bird, a dog.
Roll of
Yeah,
quarters. A dog barks.
bird.
Gust of wind.
A gust of wind.
3,
Yeah, I love that.
2, 1.
And then
They
the car
takes the money.
passes, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
The dog barks.
So I mean, that's one of those movies. I realized also that
Harold, how you doing?
I
Harold?
don't ever want them to remake that movie. Number one. But that is one of those movies that I wanted to be longer. I would have watched more of that movie if they'd given me an extra like half hour. I know that it's not everybody's thing, but for me, I would have watched another half hour of that movie of him getting through that time frame. You know what I mean? Of him starting to understand, because it does turn kind of quickly at one point. I mean, he kills himself enough times. And then until, and my daughter says to me, "Well, what does he do now?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, like, what does the next day look like?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like, are you captivated by the idea that everything is now different, that everything is new, that you don't know everything? Are you immensely tickled by that? Do you have a nervous breakdown? Like, what happens? And I guess I hadn't fully thought about it before, because I guess for me, like, I usually stop at the end of that movie. But it was a good question to say, like, yeah, what is the long-term effect of being stuck in a day for potentially up to 1,000 years? And to having that knowledge. Because, I mean, here's the thing. It's not just that he knows everything about the people in that town. It's not just that he just knows that town, but he has up to 1,000 years of experience dealing with people. I mean, you have to wonder if he doesn't start a cult or something like that at the other end. I mean, a good cult, but I mean, and the reason I say this, because remember when on the last day when he's doing the speech about Groundhog's Day, and all the other reporters are crowded around him, and you're like, yeah, it's like, that's the thing. It's like, you've been here for so long, you're older than anybody else. You've been functionally an immortal now for God knows how long, right? And you've obviously been studying, because there are scenes it's always interesting, the scenes they specifically put in, they want you to see. And there are scenes that Ramis puts in of him sitting in the diner just reading. Like, you didn't know how many days he just said, "Fuck you" to everything and just sat down and read, because he figured, I'll do it tomorrow, right? So there is this idea to me that after this day, he's no longer normal. Like, now I'm kind of sitting there going, I'm fascinated by the idea of what happens to that character from that point on, because he's a former god trapped in a human body, So yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting take on the movie, that I just never thought about what happens the next day or thereon after, to Phil Connors.
Well, yeah, you don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it is left up to you to wonder. But I mean, Yeah, I guess I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing to think of. Okay, what would that lead to? Because
Because he's not
I
the
mean,
person that he went into that day as at all.
well, no, he's definitely not. But
Yeah.
I think what you're meant to think and what makes sense to me is that he's come out as a truly good person.
He is, yeah. But the idea
Yeah.
is that somebody with that kind of, not like, I'm not saying that he'd do anything nefarious. I'm saying it would be fascinating to see what a person like that now looks like in the expanded world.
Well, I think the idea would be that he is, in essence, that the kind of embodiment of the idea that you know every day is a gift type of thing, that he knows.
Yeah,
Okay, every
well,
day
yeah.
is special, unique because I went the same
Yeah.
one for how long. I mean, it doesn't. I think if it doesn't make any sense that it was actually, because I think they were kind of messing around with the how many 1,000 years like that.
No,
that
I
doesn't
think
make
that
any
Ramis
sense in
is,
actuality because
I
you
think
would go
Ramis
insane.
is, yeah, I think, well, I mean, he does. I mean, how does he kill himself? I think Ramis
No,
is 30
but
to
I mean,
40 is probably a clearer number.
if you actually lived for 1,000 years the same day and suddenly it was next day and you realized you could die, you'd kill yourself because you would just be you have gone completely nuts. I mean, I don't even think
Or-
you would ever.
Or
live
you
that
have
long,
you take on a sort of weird Zen mastery at that point. I mean, you come out
I
the
don't
other
think
end.
you ever get out of it. I think you just lose hope. If you're stuck that long, you would give up.
No,
I don't believe a normal person
I think
makes it
I
past
know.
that.
I think that is too general a statement. I don't think everyone gives up. I think some people give up, but I don't think everyone gives up. Plus, I realized something when I was watching the movie that I had never noticed before, which is that because everything is automatically reset, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he doesn't sleep that night, he still wakes up fresh because he's reset.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's not exhausted. He's not
Yeah.
tired, right? He's not hungover. He's
Well, that's
not
why
anything.
he goes on the thing where he's driving through everything and the cops get him because he knows that
Yeah.
he won't be in
Yeah,
jail.
nothing can happen to him, but even physically, right? So I don't know. I do think that there is a minority population of people that would come out the other end some kind of Zen Buddhist.
I'm not
I mean-
going to say there's nobody, but I think you would have to start off being the type of person who wouldn't have gotten trapped in the loop. So in other words, a
Or I
Zen
mean, listen,
monk.
because we have no idea who gets trapped in the loop and why, right? Which is a
Oh
whole
no
other
no
thing.
no! Yes, we
I
do.
don't-
We do. We know who gets trapped in the loop. The whole movie is specifically demonstrating why being a selfish prick is bad.
Oh, I know that, but what I'm saying is we don't know what's the entity that is trapping him. You know what I mean?
Well, that
We
doesn't
don't know
matter.
the infrastructure of what it is, but who gets trapped in the loop is who they think needs to learn a lesson, which is Phil Connors.
Yeah. So it would be
Right.
yeah. So obviously
And-
whatever
and
does
it's
it
a coin
judges
toss.
people who are bad.
And it's a coin toss as to whether you come out the other end. Listen, the only reason
No. See, I vehemently disagree with that. No, I don't think it's a coin toss. I think that
no. What I'm saying is,
okay,
I think that there are other people who go into a loop and never get out of it.
right,
and
and
that is
that's
their
what I'm saying.
hell.
That's the.
I think
if
that
somebody was
he's
actually
special.
stuck for 1,000 years, it means they can't break the loop. No person who is capable of empathetic growth will be there
Yeah.
1,000 years. They won't be.
Well, that's
Somebody
why
who's
Ramis
there for
said
1,000 years
remember,
is a
Harold
white-haired
Ramis
lunatic.
said that he thought it was 30 to 40.
That-
The
and that
1,000
makes-
years thing came later.
That makes far more
Yeah.
sense to me. Yeah, the
Yeah.
1,000 years thing, I think if you actually logic that out, does not make any sense. Because if it was no version of somebody who's going to actually change is going to do that in 1,000 years in the limited town they're stuck in. Now, if you were
Yeah,
talking
I mean,
about the whole world,
I had
maybe.
I had a funny thought at one point that you know how, like, with psychological testing, right? It's this whole idea that you don't know what mice don't know what they're being tested, right? So, like, they'll hook up neurons to a mouse's brain, and then the mouse has to push a button. And very often a mouse will accidentally hit the button while it's doing something else, but then it'll still get, like, the shot of cocaine or whatever it is to their brain. And then they'll come up with all these weird reasons why they get the shot of cocaine until they figure that it's the button, right? So, like, they'll fall on their back and they'll hit the button by accident. But then in their head, they're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, falling on my back triggers this. So they'll start falling on their back constantly to try to get their shot of cocaine. And there was a part of me that was watching this, and I was watching the movie thinking, you know what would be interesting? If it wasn't about being good, it was about saving lives. And I was like, I wonder if it would be really funny if he arbitrarily escaped because he finally saved enough lives to be worth breaking the loop. And this is not like a concrete theory. It was just a funny fantasy I had while I was watching the movie. Because on the last day, he's basically fucking Superman at that point. The amount of people that he saves theoretically throughout the day. You know? So I just, I think the reason that that movie has such great longevity is that there's still so much about it to think about. Even though
it's wisely does not explain a lot. It just kind of focuses on what's important.
It just does it. Yeah.
It just says, okay, no, the important thing is that this guy figures out he's a dick and organically becomes better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's the part where he is actually worthy of the person that he's infatuated with.
And here's the thing. My wife was joking around with me that we should watch Edge of Tomorrow next week, right? Because Edge of Tomorrow is the idea taken to like a complete alternate sort of conclusion, right? And I was thinking about that, and I was like, you know what? I was like, I think the reason that Edge of Tomorrow, even though it uses the same concept, is not as good, is because you know what it is. And he just happens to be an asshole who gets stuck in this, who becomes better through the process.
Now, this is the part I don't remember.
Yeah.
Because I haven't watched it in a little while.
Yeah.
When does the old man die? Is that right before he starts to become better, or is it after he's already started to become better?
No, that is one. I think that's right around the time that it's one of the things that triggers him to become better.
That's what I was going to say. That's the thing.
He starts to get a little better, and as he's walking. So this is after Rita has rejected him, and he has killed himself, God knows how many times, and then he just realizes, you know what, I'm going to just try to be nice. And then he sees him one night on an alleyway, and he takes him to get some food, and then he brings him to the hospital first, and he dies. And when he dies, he says, what did he die of? And my son actually said, and my son actually said, oh, he's going to learn how to be a doctor now and save him. And then they said, no, he's just old. He's like, some people just die. And I love that line where he says, no, he's like, not today. And then after
that was after he tried to kill himself, right? That was after he.
He's already killed himself a ton of times at this point.
See, and I think that's the thing where it's like, well, what's the point if I can't end it? I might as well try to be. But yeah, I think the old man thing is the best part of the movie, as far as once he realizes he can't fix it all.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad that you don't see him again at all. Like, you are brought to understand that he tries to keep doing all the things that are good in a day. So you have to believe that in that last day, he takes that guy out to lunch, or he makes sure that guy is taken care of for the day, right? But it's just a shame that you don't see it. It would, like I said,
well, because they kind of already gave you that, where he's giving him soup and then he still dies. I think they kind of gave you that already, so there wasn't a point doing it again, because all you're going to remember is, oh yeah, but he'll be dead in an alleyway later. So they're trying to leave it. They're trying to erase, I think, as much as the negative, because you're supposed to be on the upswing there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean,
but
and the thing
you're right
is
about
with,
it being Superman, because it is the whole you can't save them all thing. Superman couldn't save his dad.
Yeah.
Phil can't save the old man.
Yeah, and that is one of the dumbest things in the fucking Man of Steel. That Kevin Costner death is so bad. They could have done that so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, that is. I will say that is one of the great things about the Christopher Reeve Superman. When the dad just drops dead of a heart attack, and the way they handle it, which is that idea of you can't save everybody.
Well, this is. I said this to somebody. I don't think I ever said this on the show. There was a conversation I was having with somebody, and I said the fact that Groundhog Day is a better Superman film than Man of Steel is pretty goddamn pathetic. And it is a better movie. I mean, when you actually examine what the character is supposed to be, Groundhog Day is a better Superman movie than Man of Steel, without even thinking about it. I say that with complete sincerity.
The messaging is definitely better.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Is one movie didn't get what the end result of the empathy loop was, and the other did.
He tries to save as many people as he can. He doesn't spend time with the woman that he has fallen in love with, specifically because he has a responsibility to try to save as many people as he can that no one has given him. This goes back to the whole working out thing. Nobody told him to do this. She didn't necessarily tell him to do this. He discovered that he felt the need to do this.
Yeah.
right? Which is that great line with, like you said, with the kid, you've never thanked me. Maybe, and I'll see you tomorrow, maybe, and he's still an asshole, but he's going to do it. So it's, and the thing is, he doesn't really get much for it because, he might get thanks later in the day or something like that, but then everything resets and he does it again. So yes, the messaging is definitely better.
Much better.
Man,
Yeah.
I'm so curious how James Gunn is going to handle that, because he's not doing a new origin, but I would love to know how he's going to address that sort of personal philosophy.
Well, based on the trailer and his statements, it is going to be the empathy version, the hope version, the person that inspires, as opposed to literally alienating. Stupid. It's God. That's the feeling I get out of it, is that
it's bright and colorful and hopeful. Yeah.
Yeah. It's supposed to be that there's always a way, it's the Kobayashi Maru. There's always a way to beat the no-win situation, whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't believe in a no-win situation.
So, which I think the only difference is, I think a James Gunn one, the mom's going to die instead of the dad, just based on
I do think it's going to be the mom. Yeah, it looks like it. But honestly, I don't know enough to say.
Well, I don't think it makes a difference. I think it's just
his dad. Listen, his dad looks pretty hefty in that, and I was kind of like, if someone's going to have a heart attack.
Well, it could just be a simple way to kind of surprise people.
Yeah.
I don't care. As long as whatever the parent is doesn't say, "Don't stop me from dying from a tornado," then I'll be fine. And I don't really
just let me die from this thing that you could easily save me from, because I don't want anyone to see you. Yeah.
I have seen the stupidest possible way you can handle the parent death in Superman.
Honestly,
so they can't do that again.
If that says anything, what that version of Superman is raised by parents who are fucking paranoid about the government.
That's what I'm saying. It's it's so weird that movie exists the way that it does.
And it's sad, because we've said many times that Henry Cavill was actually not a bad Superman.
He got screwed.
He did love the role. I was always thrown out by his enormous thighs. Especially in that bodysuit. But honestly, you know what? This is a bit of a segue, but in my opinion, you know who wears the Superman suit the best?
Who?
King Shark.
Sure.
Which will now launch us into our review, because I think that we're basically done with Suicide Squad.
We're done.
We're really only biding time now until the new Sniper Elite comes out.
Yes, which is really only maybe one more play session and we're done.
I'm looking, and the thing is, I'm excited for Sniper Elite. I'm excited to kill some Nazis. Now is a great time to kill Nazis.
You know what? We timed this so well, because we just played a very underwhelming game that has a terrible ending we'll never see. And now we get to swing into a game where we know the foundation is solid, and we'll get to do something that should be happening more in real life, which is death to Nazis. So
there you go.
It's all upside from here, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. But that said, one of the things about the Suicide Squad that I actually did find hilarious was the fact that King Shark, I put him in the Superman costume. And I love him in that costume. I think he looks great. This is giant shark dude with a big S on his chest. That said, Suicide Squad is a really weird fucking game.
Boy, is it!
If you watch our gameplay at all, you're gonna hear us.
Oh no! I didn't record any of it.
Really?
Nope.
Oh, that astounds me. Really, none of it?
I recorded the first couple, and I went, "This is not worth my time." No.
Oh wow! So then there you go. So then I kept saying to Joe that the game reminded me of Outriders, because Outriders, the story was stupid. The bosses were a joke, and the ending was like, what? But the combat system, the actual combat play, was a lot of fun. And the item system for how you improved your character's abilities or fine-tuned them, Joe got so deep into that, because you could really mess with how certain abilities were emphasized and overpowered, and especially based on what you used. So all of that was in Outriders was exceptionally clever. And I got notes of that in the Suicide Squad game, where like I actually really liked the combat. Like when we were just running around wiping out mobs, that was a lot of fun. But beyond that, and there were moments of humor that I did find genuinely funny. I will admit that as well. Not a ton, but there were moments, and I will say that even the character, the Captain Boomerang character, I don't know if he got less annoying as the game went on, but I found him slightly more endearing, which says a lot, because in the beginning of the game, he was annoying as fuck, right? But that said, overall, the story is, I don't want to use the word dumb. We're just going to say poorly written. I didn't know what the fuck was going on half the time, and it didn't really matter. If the ending, if the first ending is what we encountered, it's weak as shit. And it's annoying because you look at this game and you sit there and you go, you know what? It could have been so much better if they just did blank. Like for me, we played, was it Gotham Knights? And I actually enjoyed Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights made me really appreciate Red Hood. Gotham Knights made my wife appreciate Red Hood. Like, I think I said to you at some point, she still says shit that Red Hood said that she just saw me doing in the game because it was so ridiculous, that character. And the whole putting people to sleep with his magic bat guns. But we knew that game was kind of like, we knew that game was going to be kind of dumb in itself, right? And like their version of Batman was kind of ass, and the ending was kind of ass, but the game was fun, right? And I was hoping that Suicide Squad would be more like that, where you had an open city, you could range around, you could do a lot of different things. And Suicide Squad is so weird because it wants to come off like it's an open world, but you're other than getting from one mission to the next, you really are on kind of a rail. Like, yes, you can do a few side missions here and there, but to no great degree. Really, you're on a rail, and they've got you kind of going from big mission to big mission. And that feels very weak for what they created. I mean, honestly, if someone said to me, what are your favorite parts of the game? I'd say fighting and then just getting across the city, because the different, like the different traversal abilities were actually quite fun. I mean, you had a jetpack and I had like a weird super god jump, and one of the characters has a magic boomerang that teleports you forward, and Harley Quinn is basically Batman. She's got the grapple hook. I mean, it's a lot of fun to get around the city. I just wish that there was a point for it. I'm going to hand it off to you because I'm sure you have a lot to say as well.
I mean, yes and no. I don't really have much to say beyond that because it didn't have enough of an impact for me to have much to say about it. It was okay. Like you said, the gameplay was fine at times. The story was absolutely unimpressive, forgettable. The humor, occasionally good, but a lot of times annoying. The characters themselves, Harley's awful in terms of the voice acting and the whole persona.
Yeah.
King Shark is fun. I mean, he was funny. The Green Lantern thing was hysterical. That was great.
I like the King Shark in this game more than I like the King Shark in the James Gunn movie.
Well, that's the problem with that I have with him in the game is they almost make him too likable. That he shouldn't be part of this team because everybody else is a scumbag.
Well, Boomerang is a scumbag.
No, they're all
and Harley Quinn. Listen, Harley Quinn is Harley Quinn. She's got some kind of weird fan base that like her, right?
Well, but the problem. Okay, but see, she's another one. They're trying to split the difference on her because there's Harley Quinn, who is the criminal, the evil whatever of the Joker, the patriot or whatever. And then they've wisely tried to change her into more of a abused person who is trying to get better. Problem is that character doesn't belong in this game because when she whipsaws into that, it makes no sense.
You've got the joke. Yeah, you've got the Joker sidekick, and then you've got the Harley Quinn that a lot of people like now, which is the post-Joker in a relationship
Yes.
with Poison Ivy, growing
Yes.
into a complete person, and becoming
Yes.
more of a chaotic, neutral character.
Which is
And the
great,
problem
but
with
that's
this-
not this game.
No,
for
and the
that.
problem with this game is that where it takes place, which is similar to the movie, is either just after Joker or still with Joker.
Right.
And they allude to something between her and Poison Ivy. But when you see Poison Ivy in this game, she's been killed, and you
it
get a
replaces a
child regrowth, which is some of the stranger scenes in this game. Watching Harley Quinn talk to the reborn child version of her dead lover.
Right.
In that sense, yes, they don't know what to do. Honestly, the best part of the game for me with Harley Quinn is when she drugs Batman. When she figures out a way to basically change the Scarecrow drugs around so that even though they're drugged, Batman is drugged as well. And that is an interesting thing that the character does. But that's it.
I'm not going to say the game is devoid of any clever ideas. It's not. It has the Green Lantern thing was really funny and great.
And you know what?
Reverse drug thing was great.
It's a shame that you didn't film it because I actually said to Joe, "Man, King Shark should put the fucking ring on." And then when he goes and he puts the ring on,
you called it. Well, and it makes sense because that's the character who would.
I mean,
even though of course the ring wouldn't be there, but that's a secondary problem.
Boomerang. Yeah, I know that the ring should teleport away to find the next user.
But also, we talked about the Superman fight. The Superman fight makes no sense because there's no point where there is no logical way that the way Superman is given to us in the game. Sorry if it's a spoiler, I guess, but I don't think anybody's playing this thing. Superman is presented as full Superman, not a depowered.
Yeah, and the thing
whatever.
is that the kryptonite that Wonder Woman tries to use against him,
which is standard green, doesn't seem to work. Right.
Yeah, it weakens him very slightly, but he kicks the shit out of her. So then later on, when we get this like Lex Luthor super kryptonite,
whoa, wait, hold on. Yeah. It's not that it weakens him. She has to stab him in the chest for it to work, which is not how kryptonite used to work.
And that should have fucking killed his ass, or at least knocked it out.
Absolutely.
To get stabbed with kryptonite? I mean, yeah.
Hold on,
used to weaken
Maybe
him.
They've changed it. Maybe they've changed it. I'm looking it up right now. I'm curious. Kryptonite. Here we go.
Just to be near it used to weaken him.
Green kryptonite. Here we go.
I mean, one of the Batman's backup plans is a kryptonite bullet.
Do you know how many forms of kryptonite there are now?
I'm sure there's a million.
1, 2,
cherry
3,
flavor,
4,
milk
5,
tarts, chocolate chip
6,
flavor,
7, 8. Would you like to hear the colors? This is kind of fun.
Oh, sure. That means.
Green, which is what we used to call standard. Red, positive platinum, negative gold, anti-fool's slow hybrid, X orange, blue, white, red, green, which isn't that orange, but okay. Red, green, blue, gold, which I mean, it must be threaded, I suppose. Silver, purple, bizarro red, red gold, magno, which I don't even know what that color is supposed to be, red, green, gold, tar or black, crimson with a K, crypticium with a K, pink, periwinkle, yellow, and turquoise.
Out of curiosity, what does periwinkle kryptonite do?
It doesn't say what the effect is of that one. Oh, I'm sorry. It says effects. It doesn't have one. It doesn't have what the effect is. So what the hell's the point? Some of them have effects.
I was hoping that it made him like a dandy, where he'd be like,
let's see.
Suddenly.
Let me see. So green with prolonged exposure, cancer. Oh Jesus.
What?
Hold
on. Yeah. So it gives him cancer, but it doesn't weaken him?
I'm sorry. I was reading the Earthling effect. Sorry, Kryptonian effect. My mistake. I was in the wrong column. All right.
Oh wait, does kryptonite give people cancer?
It does now. Green does.
Interesting.
Platinum apparently gives them Kryptonian powers. Let's see. Orange gives humans temporary Kryptonian powers. Or paranoia, which, Blue gives perfect health. Okay. White only affects plants. Purple gives humans nightmares. So I was sorry. Periwinkle is joy. So apparently it's ecstasy for Kryptonians.
Oh, so you basically, if you have like a kryptonite shield of periwinkle, he'll just like come in his pants.
He becomes a hippie. He just starts hugging trees and people die. Who cares? Yeah. I'm trying to see what each of these do. Yeah, each of these has. Yeah. Okay. So green.
It sounds like they're running out of ideas. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Plaid.
Okay.
We have plaid kryptonite.
I do like how green is listed. One of the effects is usual collapse as opposed to unusual collapse. I don't know what that
usually
means.
he collapses when you get it near him, which is what should have happened in the fucking game.
Oh, got it. Well, that's according to this is okay. So the green effects still have their okay. So green, severe intensifying pain. Well, that's normal. Loss of superpowers, which is what we know. Collapse, severe muscular weakness, fever, eventual unconscious. So yes, this is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to make him weaker and weaker until he just passes out and then dies.
And she says something along the lines of it's not affecting him the way it should in the game, which is this. I mean, this is the whole thing that there's. By the way, did they say the clone thing at all in the ending?
Well, not the ending. We didn't see the true ending because we had to kill all the Brainiacs. Remember?
Oh, so we only got the halfway ending.
We only got one Brainiac down. We didn't get them all. Oh, so they were still dead in our thing. Yeah.
So it isn't until you kill them all that you find out that they're all.
I guess clones. We're never gonna know.
No, we're not. We're not gonna bother.
Who cares?
That's fine.
That's you know what? That's my biggest review. Who cares?
And listen, some of the boss fights are annoying. Like the Superman fight is annoying.
They're all annoying.
They're
all annoying because they're all the same. They're all counter shots. Every single one was a counter shot.
I know, but for some reason,
the drug one with Batman is the only one that was different. And honestly, it wasn't because you weren't counter-shotting Batman, but you were counter-shotting all of his phantoms.
Yes, you were, yeah.
And then the end one where he's a demon, were we counter-shooting him or just shooting him?
No, we were just shooting his giant head. He just turned into a giant head.
Yeah.
Like I said, the mob fighting was fantastic. I love that. And like when we're still playing it now because we've gone beyond I guess the fake ending and we're doing the other things and we've got these missions where you have to kill like 100 people. Honestly, those are kind of fun because it's just endless mayhem. It gets very sort of God of War at times where I'm just running around with my fiery swords cutting people up and machine gunning them and you're snipering them and that's fun. But you wish it was within the context of a better game.
I agree. I wish it was.
So.
Incidentally,
that said,
I finally get to use this, which I haven't had a reason to use this in all the time I've had this sound effect. But hold on a minute. Let me play this really quick.
Breaking news.
The Tuskegee thing has been reversed. They're going to start teaching it again.
No.
Yep. I was kind of curious because I was looking. I wanted to I was getting my links together, and sure enough, after the outpouring of anger. Now I don't know about the Wasp thing, but they've said that the Tuskegee thing is reversing.
Yeah,
so
you can't. I know that it's a minor thing, but it makes me very happy that at least people are getting. I don't know if we're in a world where outrage doesn't matter anymore. You know what I mean? I don't know if we're in a world where people getting angry doesn't equate things changing. I don't know what level of shameless we exist in. You know, so the idea that enough people got pissed off that they reversed it, that makes me happy. That means that there's still hope of some kind. Yeah. So thank you for that. I was so fucking angry, and in real time, you have made me feel better. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. It's a little thing, but it's something.
It's little, yeah. I mean, but and honestly, oh man, it would be bitch though if they reversed the Tuskegee thing, but not the Wasps. But I mean, I can't see how
they haven't. Oh no, it does say and a unit of pioneering female aviators. You couldn't have pointed out what they were called,
got it.
But okay, fine, same thing. I didn't notice that.
Yay.
Because it didn't have
No, listen. I need these small wins. I need them because it's just so fucking.
Hey, you know what? That what do you call it? That validates your meliorism. Right?
Oh, that it can be that we can make it better. Yeah, it
that
sucks.
People,
but
if
we
they
can make
do
it better.
something, will actually affect change.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well, I mean I didn't know, and I still don't know for sure what level of outrage is going to
I don't think
actually.
Any of us really know. But.
Yeah, I mean, like, do you have to march on the streets? You know, you saw that they're already trying to put a bill in that makes it so that Trump can get a third term. You've seen that, right?
Oh well, they knew that before. Yeah. That was. Yeah.
Well, yeah. This is that meme I've seen
this,
where they're like, "You're surprised that he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do."
I do have to say this. I was surprised at. Did you happen to see the Tuskegee Airmen's organization's statement on it?
No, I didn't.
Well, they said we're not political. So they said we're disappointed, but we're not going to become political. I'm like, okay, guys, there's a point where you have to say, yes, we are political. This is not right.
Well, there's a point where
I was
not being political is
that.
political, isn't it?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
But, actually,
saying,
this is interesting because today my son asked me a weird question, right? And this segs into this. We were we were waiting for my wife and my daughter, and my son said to me, "Hey, why aren't there any neutral Jedi?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, you have the Jedi who are good, right? Because then you have the Sith who are bad." He's like, "Why aren't there any neutral Jedi?" And I was like, "Well, that's really complicated." And he was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, and I was like, "You just want to have people who have Force powers." And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "What would they do?" He's like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "Well, think about it." I was like, "What kind of neutrality are we talking?"
Become pirates.
Well, what I said was, do you want an organization that's basically focused on keeping a balance? So whenever the good guys get the upper hand, these neutral Jedi show up and kill them. And whenever the bad guys get the upper hand, the neutral Jedi show up and kill them. And my son was like, "Yeah, that's more complicated than I thought it was." I'm like, "Yeah, neutrality is tough because very often you come off as good. It's basically being good and evil selectively, right?"
Yeah, well, that's why I really love neutrality. I mean, that's the lesson. There's no such thing as neutrality.
No, and that's why. But I do like D&D where they have like chaotic neutral.
Well, okay, but what you're talking about is moderates.
Yes,
one side you're talking about extremist Jedis on either side, and the moderates in the middle
and
who think that you have to be able to coexist.
And
because
going
let's
back
be
to
honest,
Tuskegee,
there are times where being able to shoot lightning from your fingers would probably do some good. You know?
Yeah. But with the Tuskegee thing, it's the whole being neutral right now might get you erased.
I read their whole statement. I only read part of it, and the reason is because they're a nonprofit. You have to be apolitical not to be able to be a nonprofit. Apparently, so I understand. Then that makes sense. See, that's why I wanted to read their actual statement, not the part. So they explain it in there. So
usually things can be explained if you have all the information.
Right. I was doing
stupid thing,
either way, was going by part of a statement as opposed to reading the statement. So
I'm glad that the Air Force will continue to learn about them because it is an important part of their history that I do not want to erase.
Let's just see if it changes. This is one of those things where people are going to lose sight of it, and you have to keep your eye on whether
and then they'll quietly do. Yeah.
Will they suddenly kind of change the language so they seem, remember Carlin's thing about how it went from shell shock to, post-traumatic whatever, so that you didn't realize that it was war breaking people?
Yeah.
Who knows what they'll do?
Words matter.
They do. So
words matter, language matters.
Yeah, they could change it from pioneering, breaking racial oppression to, they were a very specialized unit who headed to the front lines. That's technically still true, but it sure underplays what the importance is.
What's funny is that when I watched that show, Masters of the Air, which is about the bombers, they bring the Tuskegee Airmen into that series so late. And I said to my wife, I was like, I'm kind of irked about this because the way they present them, along with everything else that's going on, I was like, I feel like there should have been like another 2 or 3 episodes with these guys, building them up to what they were doing. Like by the time you meet the Tuskegee Airmen, they're already actively involved and have been for a while. And the thing is, they brought them in because they factor heavily into the camps and how they survived and escaped some of them escaped the camps, right? So like they needed to bring them in to give you a complete image of the story. But I'm just sitting there going, is it money? Is that why you didn't bring them in sooner? Did you not want to bring them in sooner? And the thing is that one of the actors playing the Tuskegee pilots is the new doctor, whose name I cannot remember right now.
I can't remember either.
By the way, I watched the first episode of his season.
Yeah.
And it's fucking weird. I like him as the doctor, and I like the way I like a lot about their new setup. But they do break into a musical number in that first episode that was like, I'm telling you, it was as awkward as the musical number in Return of the Jedi. In the George Lucas version where
I know.
Yeah, it was as awkward as that. I was sitting there in shock. I looked over at my wife and I was like, "What the fuck is going on here?" I was like, it is really weird when it happens. I think mainly because it's so unnecessary. like like I was just sitting there like, "What the fuck is going on here?" But at the same time, I kind of appreciate that Doctor Who is willing to be weird and kooky again. Like,
Sure.
that's the first episode of the new Doctor, and I'm curious. I want to see what else they're gonna. Sorry, I lost my tongue there for a second. I would like to see where they're gonna go with it, what they're gonna do with it. But at the same time, I do get why Disney. I don't like it, but I do understand why Disney's sitting there going, "Hey, if we're gonna have a gay black Doctor, can we please have like a backup Doctor ready in case this blows up in our face?" You know, and the thing is, you always know Tennant's out there somewhere, just floating around. You know, but I do enjoy this. I mean, even the fact that there was a weird musical number, I did enjoy the episode, and I enjoyed this kind of new take on things. I want to see where they're going to go with it. But I just figured I'd mention that. Yeah, that actor plays one of the Tuskegee Airmen. So I actually saw him in that before I saw him as the Doctor, which was very funny because I already knew that he was the Doctor. And it is always strange when you see it's always weird when you see the Doctor somewhere else, like when you see Matt Smith in something, or David Tennant, because in the back of your mind you're like, hey, he's the Doctor.
Yeah, Eccleston is the easiest to see in things because he was only the Doctor for one season, so it's pretty easy.
You know what? I'm watching that Cracker series with what's his name? Hagrid.
What's his name? Oh
yeah,
no, I always know his name too, but I can't forget.
Anyway, the detective series
is.
Cracker with the psychologist Hagrid, which is a weird series, and I've come to really enjoy it. I've watched the first season now, and Eccleston is in that. I didn't know he was in that. Eccleston is like he's the main cop that. Oh man, in Sherlock Holmes terms, what was the cop that Sherlock Holmes always dealt with? Lestrade. Yeah, so Eccleston is the Lestrade to Hagrid's Sherlock Holmes, right? And I really enjoy it. It's a fun series. I mean, it's been around forever, so I'm not going to do like
Robbie
a weird
Coltrane. Jesus,
Bobby
That's
Coltrane.
it.
There it is. Yeah.
I
But I want to
look it
mention that I
up.
saw it, and that I actually really enjoy Eccleston's sort of even-handed approach to playing this cop, where like he understands that they need a psychologist for some of this shit. He understands, but then at other times he's also realizes that he's trying not to lose control of the situation. I think he has an incredibly even-handed performance, and I enjoy his character. And they even had the last episode I saw, his wife gives birth, and they cut to him like trying to fucking like cheer his wife on, and it's like such a perfect illustration of his character, where half the time he's like, "You're beautiful, honey, I love you, you're doing so good," and the other half the time he's like, come on, you hard bitch, put that shit out, come on. And you're like, yeah, that's the character. It's very funny. But also, I think the second Eccleston has hair, it's like he's a different person. Like, because he's this kind of like shaved head when he's the Doctor. He's a very militant looking Doctor.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and he's so good at being so different every time I see him, because when you see him in 28 Days Later, like, I mean, there's no Doctor to him there. He is just a maniac, like, who thinks he's on the right side of things. But yeah, he shows up in weird shit. I do love when Eccleston pops up, because he does not pick simple shit. I mean, other than Destro. I think that's probably his weakest performance.
Boy, oh boy, did I dive into Destro on one of my streams. Whew.
Oh, did you?
Well, Destro is a psychotic character when you actually start reading about what he is and his whole... I mean, his look is so weird for what, the rest of Cobra. His background is basically, what was the character? Oh man, with the skull ring, who just keeps taking over the role. Why am I forgetting this guy? Purple suit. No, the purple suit. Billy Zane played him. Oh god, what is his name? The P. Isn't it
Phantom?
The Phantom.
Phantom?
Yeah, Destro is the Phantom, except evil.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. So his whole background is all of his family are Scottish gun runners, and each of them wears the mask. And so they're all Destro.
Hold on.
Yes.
Destro is Scottish?
Yes. Yes, he is. I know, right? Yeah. I discovered all this on a stream.
All the voice that he ever had in the show.
Born in Callander, Scotland, Destro's full name is James McCullen Destro the 24th.
Wow.
He is Laird of Castle Destro in the Scottish Highlands. Scottish. Sorry. The Destro clan has designed and sold weapons for centuries, and Destro is the faceless power behind their current incarnation. Yeah. I didn't know any. I have a picture I'm drawing of Destro because his look is so weird.
I love
anything about him.
Do you remember the? Oh, this is going to be a weird one.
Yeah.
Do you remember at one point when G.I. Joe the toys, they did like a rebrand, and Destro suddenly was like, he had a gold head.
Yes.
And he was in like,
in
heavy leather with just the red shoulder cape.
Well, I mean, he's in heavy leather all the time, but I know the look you're talking about.
But the original Destro looked like a 70s porn star with like the open chest.
With a big open thing to his navel. He looks like something that a woman would be wearing in the 70s to sexualize her, but he's a guy.
But the rebrand, when they put him in the
gold
helmet,
rebrand made him into like, I don't know, some kind of like panther pimp looking thing.
He looked pretty badass in that. And here's the thing: wasn't he involved with Baroness?
No, I don't think he was involved. He was obsessed with her. I read that he has a crush on her. Whether they were together or not,
he's got a crush. I mean, it's hard to make out with a metal head. I mean, is he bolted in there, or is that just something he wears?
Yeah, no, it's just a mask, which is ridiculous because I remember his mouth moving. Did his mouth move?
His mouth moved in the cartoon.
Yeah. So what kind of
that
steel
shit was
mask
like
is
his
that?
skin.
And then that stone around his neck is basically like his literal family jewel. It's the jewel of his family.
Of the Destro family, yeah.
Yeah. And the steel mask is because that was their condemnation for their crimes of being warmongers.
Oh, they put him in an iron mask.
Yeah, which is back from the Wars of the Three Kingdoms, when his ancestor was caught. So I don't know if it's the same mask. If it is, it's funky.
G.I. Joe is weird in general.
Yeah.
I mean, when you really get into it, listen.
This is insanity.
Because I mean, look, you have Zartan who can take other people's faces, right? You had the twins who were like businessmen, martial artists, right?
Oh,
you have Baroness.
No, there's lots of it.
Yeah, I mean, you got Baroness. I mean, you got Cobra Commander, who is his own weird fucking.
Oh yeah, he's something else.
A fucking Serpentor, Dr. Mindbender.
Yeah.
I mean, none of these are normal characters.
No, but Destro might be my favorite one now of all of them. Because as I was reading this, I didn't know any of this stuff because I was not a big fan of the cartoon. I remember it being on. I had some of the toys. I never watched it. I don't care.
Oh, I watched a lot of it.
No, I never watched any of it. I was watching Thundercats and Transformers. I wasn't watching this. I just never
I watched those too. I had a lot of time.
Yeah. But apparently Destro would fight against Cobra sometimes because he would make more money for some reason.
Yeah, I do remember that he was one of the voices that spoke up against when he thought Cobra Commander was doing something that he thought was fucking crazy.
Yeah, because it would be bad for his business. That's why. So he's the ultimate capitalist. He respects the G.I. Joes for their combat skills, but detests them for wasting their skills maintaining peace. And he and Cobra Commander hate each other. Like this is like a soap opera. This should be a soap opera. Is just how Cobra works.
Did you
Days
ever read the comics? Have you read the comics?
I don't care about any of it. This is the most I care.
So I used to read the G.I. Joe comics, and they are every bit as weird as any other Marvel comic. I'm pretty sure they're Marvel. Marvel printed them. But yeah, if you read the Marvel run, I'm pretty sure of... Hey, Marvel? Because didn't Marvel also have the rights to Transformers for a while?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so there is a Marvel run, I'm pretty sure, of G.I. Joe, and they crossed over with the Transformers. And And they're still doing that too, because recently there was a book that came out that was a crossover between Transformers and G.I. Joe. And honestly, it's amazing how well those two go together. But yeah, if you read the G.I. Joe comic, there's lots of fucked up shit that went on. Oh, Storm Shadow, that's the other one. The Snake Eyes Storm Shadow balance. That everybody adored those characters.
Well,
but
this may be the best part of trivia about Destro.
Okay.
The guy who voiced him in the series most people would know, the original series, the animated series, is the same guy who voiced the Brain from Pinky and the Brain, as well as Inspector Gadget.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, right? Yeah, and he is not Scottish. He is, in fact, well, actually, I don't know. He could be Scottish, but he's from Canada.
And now I really want a Scottish voice coming out of that helmet.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would really add to it. In fact, you know what? If you
Sean Connery would have been a great Destro.
If you want a really good G.I. Joe movie,
Eat shit, Cobra Commander.
You said it in the 70s.
Oh yeah. Well, most of them look like they clearly were designed from the 70s.
I know. So like you set it in the 70s, you get that 70s funk. You give them like advanced technology from like the 80s, but you put it in the 70s, so they seem like they're slightly advanced.
Sure.
Right? I mean, I think the thing is they always want to put them in like the present and then make them slightly futuristic. Where it's like no. Put them in the 70s. Give them like 1980s gear.
Yeah.
and let it go. It'll be great. Didn't Gordon Levitt play Cobra Commander? Or
He
try?
may have. I don't know. Honestly, don't know.
The first movie was so bad. The second one was more fun, but that's because they brought The Rock in and it became a Rock movie.
Well, yeah. Then it was just ridiculous, like completely ridiculous.
Roadblock, man.
Completely out. Sure. Yeah. Why not?
But they didn't bring in some of the weirder characters like Snow Job and Quick Kick and
Sergeant
Shipwreck.
Slaughter. Why wasn't there a new Sergeant Slaughter?
Yeah. Oh man, Serpentor. I think that once you get into Serpentor and the weird,
then it's all outer space at that point.
The alien snake gods shit. Yeah, it gets really fucked up then.
Yeah, then you've just completely lost any grounding.
Oh yeah,
That's
I love
fine.
the G.I. Joe movie
where
they turn Cobra Commander into a snake and they just totally sideline him.
I remember that. That was so weird. I do remember some things. Like I do remember Serpentor because I thought that was a neat character. So I remember watching some of those episodes.
And he was nuts. I mean, if you think that Cobra Commander and Destro didn't get along, I think the thing is that Destro was actively afraid of Serpentor.
Yeah, well, wasn't Serpentor completely insane? Wasn't he just?
He
nuts?
was, but he was but he was also superhuman.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like he's the literal wild card that you can't do anything about.
He was like the Cobra Captain America.
Yeah.
Right. They genetically designed him, and he was nuts. He was nuts, and he had that snazzy outfit,
with the big cobra head behind him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Is there crazy? You're gonna tell me that he was like Hispanic now, right?
Destro helped create him. That makes sense. Oh.
Yeah.
He is designed to be a composite clone of Napoleon, Julius Caesar, Hannibal, and Attila the Hun.
Oh, like I said, Cobra Captain America.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was nuts.
Okay. Great.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that they all had such weird backstories. I always felt that G.I. Joe had more going on in the background than Transformers when I was growing up.
Well, that may be true.
They just had such weird characters. I think that's the other thing too, is that like Thundercats was weird, but everybody was weird in Thundercats. Whereas in G.I. Joe, it's like the Joes were like kind of their special brand of weird, and then Cobra was like even fucking weirder. And then but then it was like all cast against what was supposed to be somewhat of a normal world, and it just made them that much weirder. You know what I mean? Also, I love the jetpacks from G.I. Joe. Did you ever see the Rocketeer packs they have?
I think so, yeah.
I love those. They made no sense. I have no idea how they used them. It was one of those things where like it was completely illogical. Because like any G.I. Joe would put a rocket pack on and suddenly they were the Rocketeer.
Well, right. I mean, that's the thing.
But I fucking love those things. I think the G.I. Joe rocket pack was my my base understanding for rocket packs in my imagination. It's always really just a G.I. Joe rocket pack. You know? Yeah. And that's why I think I was so let down by the movie, where they were like, let's make it like modern and a different kind of edgy. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not that kind of edgy. It's like, it's
No.
70s, it's 80s.
Yeah.
Like, you got to go back.
It's silly.
It is.
You can't make it too. You have to keep it in the silly realm, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why I think the new Fantastic Four movie might work, because they're setting it in like this alternate.
I said that. How long did I say it?
Oh,
Had to
no,
be
you
set in
listen,
that
you've been
goofy
saying
time.
that for years, and you are
Yep.
100% correct.
Yeah. So I actually think it'll work, because they.
I hope it'll
did
work.
Well, I hope so too. I don't want it to suck.
Yeah, no,
I
listen,
think it works if it's done that way.
I always say I want to be entertained.
Yeah,
want
and the
it to
fact that
work.
they're
I
setting
want
it in the
to be
correct
good.
thing makes me think somebody actually has a clue. So that's good. I'm very happy that somebody did that, because it tells me they at least have some
Hope,
understanding of what this should be, and that's hey,
Hopefully.
that's a good first step.
hopefully somebody has a clue.
Yeah, I mean they have to go further than that, but it's a good start. They're
Yeah.
starting in the right direction and not completely going off a cliff, so I'll take it.
Yeah, by all means. Oh, and I just want to mention it quickly before we get into whatever review you have. I just watched the Next Generation episode where the what is it? The Ferengi try to use the mind control device on Picard on his
That's
old ship.
first season. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Stargazer.
Oh, we're still in the first season. But you know what?
Is it
I
the
gotta
Stargazer?
say,
Is that what it's called?
it's the Stargazer. Yeah. I gotta say, one of the things I do like about that episode is that even though the Ferengi are the bad guys, it's only one of them, and the rest of them basically, once they figure out what's going on.
Is it one of them Armin Shimmerman before he played Quark?
Oh, I have no idea. Maybe. I didn't recognize him. I'll put it like that.
Hold on, I'm looking it up.
But I like the
pretty sure it
fact
is.
that they could have just had the whole crew be evil, but they were even-handed enough to be like, no, it's just one guy. And the rest of them are like, yeah, there's no profit in this. He's been taken out of captainhood, and we're very sorry about it. And that's
where
and
they're
that's
on
it.
the planet, right? And they're judging him. Is
No,
that it?
oh no, that's when they Picard
they're both-
apparently
Okay.
they are meeting them to give them a gift.
Is it the Last Outpost?
Is that what it's
Episode
called?
4?
No, this is like 6, I think.
All right, hold on. I'm on the wrong one. So let's see. Justice. The battle.
Justice.
Blair Ferengi bearing gifts. There you go.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Let's see. Is he one of them?
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that, like season 1 writing is kind of rough, but I do like this idea that there's a great thing in there where Riker calls the basically his counterpart, and he says to the guy, he's like, you need to realize what's going on. And the guy's like, are you telling me to question my captain? And he's like, no. He's like, but from one first officer to another, he's like, you gotta think about it, man. He's like, is this really good for your crew? And like, it's interesting because then, yeah, they do, the Ferengi do put the captain out of commission, and the first in command takes over. And I love that line where they're like, oh, there's no profit in it. So, he was pursuing something that was not profitable to the Ferengi. So I found that episode quite enjoyable. And I do like the fact that you get to see another starship. Because that's the other thing. Whenever another starship shows up is always fun, like another Federation ship.
Yeah.
Because you don't get them often enough.
Okay, so
You know?
yeah, Armin Shimmerman is in the other episode from the first season with the Ferengi, the earlier one. He is playing one of them. That's
Okay.
what I thought.
On the planet.
Yeah,
okay.
and then he pops up. He's the Daemon in one of them, and then he's Quark later on. So yeah, he plays 3 different Ferengi.
Well, once he was Quark, that was it.
Well, that was it. They knew what they had there.
Yeah.
Well, I think they probably knew when he played the Daemon. They were like, okay, this guy gets it. He's got the voice. He's got the kind of mannerisms. He's funny.
Yeah.
Quark
It
is
was
just
like
one of those
Was
characters.
it Dan Jones? Dan Jones the one that did
Doug
Abe
Jones.
Sapien?
Doug
Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Doug Jones in Discovery. I mean, he is one
he's
of
great.
my favorite parts of Discovery because he's got that fun, goofy walk where he's got the hands behind his back and he's like,
No,
yeah,
man,
it's
listen,
fun.
he has made a very, very effective career of playing aliens where they all have personalities, even if you never see the guy behind it. So.
And I mean, you saw that Section 31 movie came out.
Oh God, yeah. I
And
almost watched that instead of the movie I'm going to review, and I decided not to, and I think I made the right decision.
I am going to wait until I watch Discovery with my kids, because I've told my kids that when we finish Next Generation, we will go back and we will watch Discovery.
Well, I'm gonna tell you my theory.
Yeah.
You're gonna like her in Discovery because she's not a main character.
Oh,
the problem was making this a main character.
Well, I liked her in Discovery because they used her in a measured amount.
Well, but Section 31, I just don't believe should be the focus.
I don't think she'd be the
and
lead.
that's where I'm pretty sure the movie is failing. And a lot of people are like, this is nothing. Because, it's not meant to be.
Have the reviews come out yet?
The reviews are weirdly divided, but generally it's not doing that well. Because people are like, what's the point? I don't want
Star Trek to fail, but I just don't feel like it's...
I'll be honest with you. I want this to fail because I don't think Section 31 should have its own stuff. Section 31 is a way to highlight the ideas.
Yeah, they were great
contrast.
in Discovery, but they were great in Discovery because they were
great in Deep Space Nine. Remember, that was William Sadler was the lead guy.
Yeah.
Remember, and they didn't know if he was crazy or not, and then
Oh, and he kept trying to get Bashir.
The doctor Bashir, yeah.
Bashir. They kept trying to get Bashir to join them, didn't they?
Yes, because they thought he'd be a good mole.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is...
I don't want Star Trek to fail, but I understand your sentiment in that you want it to go away.
I want Star Trek to keep going. I want the bad ideas to go away.
You're lucky that she won an Oscar, because otherwise you had a whole fucking miniseries of this.
I know. Could you... yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But some of the reviews I read said the problem is if in a miniseries, these characters would be more defined, and they're not, and that's part of the problem. So
you would know them better, yeah.
But I still think just the idea of a Section 31, I think that was entirely constructed around Michelle Yeoh's character.
Is, I don't have a problem with them doing a Section 31 show. My issue is that I don't think you should make it around that character. You know what I mean? Like I
have a problem with it.
I like Michelle Yeoh, but I do think that there's a way to do a Section 31 story, but to do it in a more...
I mean, if you're talking about a limited one-time series of a couple episodes, like 4 to 6 episodes,
I'm talking about a limited one-time episode where you have a ship, you have a black ship, right? Because that's essentially what it was. They bring them in and they say, "Hey, we have this problem. We need you to figure it out." Right? And you may not survive this, and you cannot necessarily get help. No one can know you're there. Nobody can know who you are. And then they have to take that ship and make it look like a Starfleet, like a normal Starfleet ship, fake being a normal Star. I mean, and that honestly almost becomes the comedy of it, where you've got a Section 31 ship desperately trying to present itself as a normal Starfleet ship because they have to get through a certain area of space to do something that they're not supposed to do. Right? Like all of that. I like all of that idea. I think there's so much to work with there. You can even make it fucking funny, because what could be more hilarious than a Section 31 ship desperately trying to pose as like, a California class ship or some bullshit like that, right?
Yeah.
And then them doing something and having it end with something that almost wipes out the entire crew. And to make it so that you actually want them to win, you support them. And then at the end, there's nothing left. And the people who survive get, handed off to other Section 31 departments. And you realize that that's Section 31. No one says thank you. No one knows what you did. And if you survive, they hand you off to some other crew. That would work to me as a Section 31 story. The problem is that they have Michelle Yeoh, who's great. And they wanted to make a whole series around her character because people like her. But it's that whole thing of, just because I like a little bit of, a little bit of candy here and there in my meal, I don't only want candy, which is what you're getting with Michelle Yeoh. They're like, let's just give you Michelle Yeoh all the time, over the top in this show. And I'm like, I mean, did you even feel like that character grew to any extent?
Not beyond her affection for what's-her-face, and that was it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think this was a bad idea from the beginning.
Unless you were going to have unless originally the idea was to give this character some kind of grand character arc, where she goes from being the scumbag that she was,
I guess,
to actually giving a shit about her crew.
It could be,
but you'll never know because she won an Oscar.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So what you got for me?
So instead of that, I watched a movie from 1983 that has two titles, one of which I think is much better than the other. The first is Dagger Eyes, and the second is Mystère. I far prefer Dagger Eyes myself.
Ooh, look at this.
I read that this was a mix of a Giallo and a spy film. I know, right? Oh, man, this woman is so striking.
Who is she?
We were talking about the Baroness. If they'd made a movie in 1983.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean,
right?
just looking at an image of her is amazing.
I was. This is 1983's version of Mila Jovovich for me. Yeah, Carol Bouquet, I guess. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it.
Wow. I mean,
right?
Yeah, she is.
Do you see? And the first thing you see of her is she's basically in a Two-Face suit that's black and white all the way down. And
she was in Wasabi. Okay, I've seen this one before.
Oh, I saw that movie. I didn't realize it was her, but I haven't seen that in a long time. Okay.
Yeah, she was in Wasabi.
Okay.
So yeah, I've crossed paths with this woman before in other movies. Yeah, she is a lovely woman.
Oh man,
very lovely.
Yeah. So, like I said, I read that they tried to make a Italian slasher crossed with a spy film, and I went, how? How could these two things work? Because they're such different types of films that I went, okay, yeah, I have to watch this. And I'll tell you what, it works.
Oh, she was in For Your Eyes Only.
Yes, briefly. I think she's one of the is she one of the Bond girls? She might be one of the Bond girls. I don't remember.
She is Melina.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think she's in it a ton. I think she's just in it because, she's gorgeous. So I'm sure that's why it was there, or why she was in it. That's how most Bond girls at the time were cast. So I'm like, all right, let me watch this thing. So right away, I'm going to just play the opening music because this is one of those movies that doesn't take long to just start throwing like funk jams at you. So I'm going to play this. And the setup of this is the inciting incident that's going on. You'll hear a camera shutter going off because the opening setup where this, and I'm going to cut it before the gunshots start, is essentially the setup is a Zapruder-like incident where somebody is assassinated and somebody happens to get a photo, except it's not a camera, it's not a video, it's just still images of the assassin. But just listen to this opening score, which is magnificent. Now it goes on for much longer. It's great.
That is really nice music.
It is. The whole movie has great music like that. Like really good music.
That's a really nice tune.
Yeah. So we see this guy, and there's a gunshot, and it's very much JFK. I mean, the whole thing is very much framed the way the motorcade is, the wife over him. Like, it's clearly supposed to be evoking JFK. And this guy happens to get a shot of the assassin, the guy in the window with the gun. And so we immediately see a guy behind him. We only see him from the legs down with a cane who happens to notice him, which is going to become the assassin of the movie. We'll find out. And so then we cut to the main character, Mystère, who is Carol Bouquet, and she's getting back from vacation. And she's got the Two-Face suit on, and she looks magnificent. But she looks like the villain of a movie, not the heroine.
Oh, yeah. I thought she was the bad guy in this.
No.
She's got this...
Right?
Yeah.
Even when she gets to her apartment, she has a white cat, like a Bond villain. It is so coded. The way she carries herself, how she interacts with everybody, you would be sure that she would be the femme fatale from a noir film. I mean, that's the way the character...
Looking at some of these outfits, yeah, she...
Yes, yeah, which is great because it's like you're immediately thrown off by the fact that she's clearly the hero of the movie.
Yeah.
So she gets back, and, we see her going through all this, like she's doing a workout routine, and she's got the white cat. And then we find out that she is, in fact, a high-priced call girl. And so we get these scenes. Now, at this point, with the music, with her and the other prostitutes, it all felt like sleazy Italian giallo stuff. Like, okay, we're going to get a bunch of just gratuitous nudity for no reason, objectification of women. Like, it felt like a greasy Italian sleaze fest. Like, that's the whole first 15 minutes of the movie, because she immediately is hired by a guy and some kind of lesbian hijinks go on. Although I will say, the movie is very chaste in the fact that you don't see any nudity really, except for maybe 6 or 7 seconds of a reflection, which I was pleasantly surprised by, because the way this opens, I mean, she literally is pushed to go down on a woman, but it's all out of frame. So I'm like, okay, I know where this is going. And then she's then immediately hired by somebody else who then has her do, it's a threesome, and it ends up being the photographer that we got from the opening, who is this really, I mean, I am very, very sorry I saw this gentleman with his shirt off, because he looks like a shaved Ron Jeremy, and that's just not a pleasant image for anyone.
I think I've seen images of this already.
Oh, God. Yeah, I don't know if he's got his shirt off. I hope not. But in any event, we get a scene where he looks like he's out of breath while they're just laying on him. And at one point, he sends one of the women out of the room to get a drink for him. And while she's out there, she basically starts going through his things, and she steals a lighter because it's gold. It's a gold lighter. So she takes it, not knowing that inside the lighter are the negatives from this assassination attempt. So she steals the lighter. He comes out, surprises her, so she slips it in the bag of Mystere, the main woman, the Baroness. I'm just going to call her the Baroness. So she slips it in Baroness's handbag and doesn't say anything. And does try to tell her a couple times, but they keep getting interrupted, including this little thing when they walk out of the hotel where a guy pulls up, and this is such a beautiful sound clip because he just immediately propositions her. And at one point she says, you'll hear her say, well, what do you take me for? And he says, well, how much do I have to pay to go to bed? The other girl goes, he took you for exactly what you are. But then this is, I'm just going to play this.
Is it in French?
No, it's in English. It's very dubbed. Oh, it's very dubbed.
Okay. I thought it was in French.
No, it's an Italian film, top to bottom, meaning that they shot no on-set sound. This is all dubbed, but this is them walking out of the hotel. And you will hear the girl, this is the first of many times where she tries to tell her that, I think in this you'll hear her say, hey, I got to tell you something, and they get interrupted.
Listen, babe, I've got to tell you something.
What?
Oh, you're going to be pissed, but I couldn't help myself.
Go ahead. I'm cool.
I shouldn't have, but that guy was a real shit.
Hey, doll.
Me?
Yeah, you. Let's spend the night together.
First you tried to run me over. Then you want to get in my pants. What do you take me for?
Would $1,000 be enough?
He's taken you for what you are.
Make it 2, and you've got me all night.
You're on, sugar lips. Let's go.
Follow me.
So yeah, so that's the, this is the whole setup of the thing, is there's a bunch of this stuff. And like I said, at this point, I thought it was just going to be mostly a bunch of just sex scenes and that type of thing. Because I thought that's just the whole feel of the movie up to this point. But basically, after that, the scene cuts, and now we go, and the new screen comes up, and it says day 1. And at this point, it does become a spy procedural. It really does shift into a spy movie, but with still these major influences of Italian slashers. But this is where the film shifts, because now, every time we get a major cut, it's a different day as this thing is proceeding. So the next day, we find that the photographer gets a visit from a guy. And again, we don't see the face. And this is a very slasher thing where you just see, either the hands. He's got the black gloves like Italian slashers usually have. But we don't see his face, which tells you that it's going to be some kind of twist at some point. Normally in slashers, it's at the very end with almost no sense to it. And suddenly we just find out there's a character that we barely heard of. But this is basically because we know, okay, somebody we're going to see who we think is a good character or a neutral character will in fact be the assassin. Because there's no reason not to show the face if that's not what you're doing. These movies are not that complicated. So basically, this guy shows up, guy with a cane, And you'll find that the cane has a knife in it, and that's his assassination method. Is he holds the thing up and he presses a button and a knife blade shoots out of the front and he stabs them. So he shows up to, we find out, try to collect because the photographer has somehow found the people who were the assassins and said, I have film of what you did and I'll sell it to you. And this is the guy showing up to collect the negatives, and the photographer telling him that, the negatives seem to have taken a walk.
What are these difficulties, Reinhardt? Where are those negatives?
Inside my lighter, but it's gone.
That was a very serious mistake.
I have looked everywhere, but it's gone. The only explanation is they must have stolen it.
What do you mean, they?
Last night there were 2 girls here.
Horse.
I shouldn't have.
Right. You shouldn't have.
It was probably one of them. She must have taken it.
Could you find them again?
I don't know. They were Via Veneto. The one was blonde, the other brunette. Give me time, and I swear I will get it back.
Switch off the television. I can't think. I'm sorry, but that's the rule. Never leave anything behind.
As you heard, he basically stabs him and his head goes through the television and he kills him. So basically at this point he knows there's a blonde and a brunette prostitute that he has to look for. And he miraculously manages to stumble onto the blonde one, who again is trying to tell the other girl, Mystere, that she took the lighter, but the guy pulls up and gets her in the car and kills her. Looks around, can't find the lighter, but happens to see a framed photo of Mystere and this girl, and so realizes that she's the brunette, that they were working together. And so now he knows who it is. So then we get a bunch of scenes where Mystere is playing very against the type of the time. She is a very in-control prostitute in that there's a part where a guy's having sex with her and she takes a phone call while she looks bored as he's having sex with her and just doesn't care that he doesn't like that. He's just like, whatever. And she's like, you're getting what you need. And she's on the phone. Then she meets with the pimp who owns the hotel that she stays at. And he's basically saying that she's going to have to pay him rent. And she's like, no, I don't think I'm going to pay you rent because I am way better than most of the girls working here. And he's like, well, you have to pay me something. And he's like, well, what if and she's like, well, you could just have sex with me once a month. And he's like, you really think you're that good? And she's like, I know I'm not good. And he's like, how about 2 times a month? And she's like, okay, fine. I don't care. I'll be bored anyway. And so she basically barters having sex twice a month to stay in this very expensive hotel. But again, at no point is it degrading to her. At no point is anything out of her control. It's what I mean about she plays it like she's the villain because she's in total control. She's not afraid of anybody up until a certain point where she realizes, the Russian KGB's after me. That's the point where she finally starts to get frightened. But outside of that, she doesn't give a shit about anything. She's just living the life she wants to lead, how she wants to lead it, which I think is great. So at a certain point, a cop shows up who's an American cop and I think he is dubbed by an American, and basically says, hey, the girl that you know has been murdered, and the only lead or connection we have is you. And she's like, well, I'm not telling you anything. And he's like, all right, well, I know you're involved somehow, so one way or another I'm going to get the information. And she says, okay, so now what? Now you're going to hit me a couple times and then rape me? And he's like, no, I'm bored with white girls. I like exotic women. And so he's like, here's my car. I swear. I almost clipped it, but it's such a short thing I didn't even bother. But that's what he says. He says, white girls bore me. I like exotic women. And then he just leaves after leaving her his card. And so he leaves. And he's basically following leads in the background. And at a certain point, she sees a newspaper that says German photographer found dead. And now she starts to put some things together because the girl kept trying to tell her that she had something to tell her. And then this guy is dead that they just had sex with. The cop's showing up. So she's starting to put together that there may be something bigger going on. And right about that time, the assassin shows up at her apartment, breaks in, starts chasing her around, and it just so happens that the cop, she calls the precinct right as the guy's getting there, and the cop shows up, manages to chase him off, and says, okay, you obviously are involved in something here. There's a reason that they're coming after you, so you have to come back and stay with me because you need protection. And she's like, okay. And she goes back with him, and she's like, well, where are you going to sleep? And he's like, well, the bed's big enough for both of us. And he's like, and she says, yeah, I know where that leads. And he says, I told you, I'm not into white girls. You have nothing to worry about. And until the very end of the movie, he appears to be telling the truth, because as she's sitting there, I don't know where she's supposed to be from, but a dark-skinned woman comes in, sees her, gets infuriated, and leaves. And then the guy comes out of the bathroom and says, did I hear voices? And she's like, yeah, I think your girlfriend's pissed. And he's like, which one? And she's like, I don't know, but she left. And so he's like, oh, that's great, thanks. And again says, maybe it makes me racist, but I don't like white girls, which is such a weird statement. But he is adamant about not liking white girls throughout this movie. So basically they stay there, and she tells him everything basically that is relevant. And so then the next day he's called into the office of, they don't call it Interpol. I think they call it Crime Pol. And I don't know if that's because they couldn't say Interpol, or if Interpol was known as Crime Pol at one point. There may be a name change. But essentially, it's what we would today call Interpol. He's called into the office of the local, because they're in Rome. And so this is the local Interpol agent who is investigating what's going on. And this is their dialogue about the cop, whose name is Colt, of course it is, his theory on what's going on.
For 3 days, I've been investigating the murder of a young pross who had her throat cut, apparently for sexual motives. But the clues I've found lead elsewhere, Captain Levy. 1. 2 hookers from Via Veneto pay a visit to the hotel of a certain Reinhardt. 2. The next morning, Reinhardt is murdered, and you people from Criminal Pol start your inquiries. 3. That same evening, Pamela, one of the hookers, is killed. 4. The next day, the other one, Miss Stair, is on the point of suffering the same fate as her friend, only I show up in time, and the killer gets away. And 5, even an amateur can deduce that all the murders have a common denominator.
I congratulate you, Inspector. You have come a long way with our homicide squad, considering you were sent here to investigate art theft from the States. Very, very meticulous work.
We have another clue. The killer drives a black Spider.
Really?
Yes, I've already put my men to work. They're combing through all the black Spiders with Rome license plates.
Then start with mine. I've got a black Spider, too.
One less to check on.
Well, you see, Inspector, the Reinhardt case is a very touchy one. And that's why we're handling it. But don't ask me for any details. It's a top secret affair. At this point, the homicide squad will have to step aside. Seeing there are clear-cut links between the 2 murders, I and my men will deal with your case as well.
Look, I don't like to leave a case unsolved.
Nor do I. You got a light?
Now, when he says, do you have a light, the cop, who had kind of semi-stolen, or borrowed the lighter with the photos, the negatives in it, takes the lighter out, and the inspector immediately is interested in it, and like the music comes up, and we get like a sort of the same theme from the opening, and then we pan over, and he's holding a cane. So we know right away that the Interpol, or whatever inspector, is in fact the assassin. And so the cop calls Mister and says, or the Baroness, whatever, and says, okay, they took me off the case, so Interpol's going to take over your protection. And she's not really thrilled about it, because at this point, the cop seems like the only person so far that she can rely on, but she's like, okay. And so she goes back to her apartment, and she has sex with the rental pimp, or whatever he is. And as he's lighting a cigarette, she starts to put together that the lighter is what the girl was trying to tell her about, and maybe that there's something to do with that. So she knew something was going on, but now she's keyed in on the lighter, and she realizes she doesn't have it, and she goes over to the police station to find the cop to see if he's got the lighter, because she thinks there's something going on with the lighter. So she's there, and for whatever reason, the cops are basically like, all right, well, he's gone home, but you can call him from this phone and then lock up when you leave. So she's the only person in the police station, which does not seem like it's a protocol that would actually be followed.
Is that something that maybe is typical in Italy that we it's unknown to us? Like, just lock up the police station when you're done.
Based on some of the Italian films I've watched, I have no trouble believing that Italian men will do whatever when a beautiful woman walks in and says, I need to use the phone. So it's very possible. I cannot dispute this. It would be fitting with some things I've seen. So sure. But before I proceed,
200 hours later.
We've passed the 2-hour mark. So she's in the police station. She's making a phone call and she hears somebody. And she looks over and sees the cane and immediately panics and runs and hides. And in walks the guy, the Interpol guy, and we see him put on a pair of black gloves. And he calls the cop and says, hey, I need to come and see you. And so the cop's like, all right, I'll be at home. And she hears this. So he takes off. And she sees his car. And between the cane and the car knows he's the killer. And so she tries to tell the cops, oh, that guy's going to kill the cop, and they don't believe her because, of course, this is like the head inspector for Interpol, so they think she's just, a crazy prostitute. And so the guy gets to the house and basically pulls a gun on Colt and says, well, unfortunately, you are going to have to be eliminated because you have made the mistake of getting involved in KGB business. And he's like, I'm going to need you to go ahead and get into your bathtub, and I'm going to drop an electrical appliance in there so it looks like you were shaving and you slipped and dropped your electric razor in there. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a plausible way to make it seem like it was an accident. And
he didn't want to just push him out a window?
No, I guess not. I guess that would look sloppy or something. So Mystere gets there, and she starts banging on the door, which distracts the Interpol guy long enough for Colt to get the drop on him, throw him into the tub, and then electrocute him. So we're at the hour mark, and the main assassin is now dead. So I'm sitting there going, okay.
Wait, hold on. How long is
it?
It's
a 90-minute movie. So I'm sitting there going,
oh, is that a half hour? Okay.
There's a half hour left after the main assassin is dead. So I'm sitting here going, okay. This was the first of the points where the movie started doing things I wasn't expecting. I mean, we were already at that point because, again, the days keep going. I think this is day 3. No, I think this is day 2. And so, whatever, day 2, day 3, it doesn't matter. So basically, Mystere gets there and says, yeah, there's something about that lighter. And they look at it and they find that there are negatives in it. And it just so happens that the officer, as I guess early 80s cops do, has a dark room in his place that he can go develop photos in, probably because, cops were taking pictures of gorgeous women in the, while they were leaving the police stations for them to lock up. And so he's like, well, let's develop these photos and see what they are. And so they develop the photos, and this is what they're finding. This is him explaining, okay, these photos are showing an assassin.
Now I understand why Levy was so anxious to get hold of the lighter. Look. The assassination at the Spanish Steps.
Oh, yeah. They never found the killer.
Reinhardt must have taken these. Instead of handing them over to the police, he tried to sell them to the highest bidder. Only your friend Pamela ripped off his lighter. And he ended up face first to his Betamax.
So, what are you aiming to do now?
I don't know. But you can be goddamn sure this won't be the end of it. There must be someone behind Levy who still wants the negatives. I could start an inquiry. Probably get myself a nice promotion.
Or a knife in your back. Colt, I'm scared.
You mean a cop and a hooker wouldn't stand a chance against a bunch of spies? I think you're right. Let's get rid of the body and the lighter. Forget about the whole thing.
Let's just hope they forget about us.
After this point, they each take a car. They put the body in.
I think that right there is probably the best line I've heard so far.
Isn't it great? That's like I'm saying.
You think a cop and a
hooker I can't take on spies. Right. Yeah, this movie got better as it went along. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong. I would have enjoyed it if all it was sleazy Italian, trash. But it is becoming a real kind of spy chase where they know they're being hunted by they call them the agency, but you find out later it's the KGB. I mean, that's what it is. And so they split up. She's got the body in her car, and he's got the lighter, and he's going to get rid of it somewhere, he says. At which point, he starts being chased by these two guys in the car. One is the assassin, and the other, I don't know if you saw the photo in the IMDb pictures, but there's a guy who looks like he's a 15-year-old kid with bad mirrored sunglasses and like
big teeth.
Yeah, big teeth. So
okay.
Agent Big Teeth and French assassin guy chase them, and he manages to run them off the road. They don't die; they just go into into like the local river or whatever, and he manages to escape. But then he sees where they work, and so he calls the agency that's their front. It's like a travel agency, I think. And so he calls it and he says, "Hey, tell your guy there that if he's interested in the lighter, then I will negotiate with him. We're going to meet in a public place." And, if they're willing to meet my terms, then I'll turn over the footage to them. And this is their negotiations. So they're all in the bathhouse. And it's basically Colt, French assassin guy, and Officer Big Teeth, or Agent Big Teeth. And this is their discussion on what he's willing to sell the film for.
Inspector, are you here in a private capacity or something more official?
You decide.
You forget that I was a policeman. I know just how ambitious you can be.
I'm not worried about my career. I just want to get rich.
I imagine you possess the lighter with the negatives.
Let's say I know where to find it in exchange for $1 million. Cash.
Good.
Only мальчик. Only мальчик.
But once the exchange has taken place, what guarantee do we have that you don't give a copy to one of your superiors here? Or, given your weakness for dollars, to one of my colleagues in the American services?
One, without the negative, the copy would be of no value. It could be a fake. Two, I'm not interested in dollars in general. Just $1 million in particular. And three, you've got to trust me.
You are sure going to carve out a career.
That's what I said to myself when I came in.
Where's the lighter?
Where's the money?
We've got the money.
I've got the lighter.
Colt, these negotiations is rather like a game of chess. You've kept me on the defensive by playing very cleverly with your pawns. But games can go on for hours. Now it is my turn to move. You'll get the cash when the film is in our hands. Besides, I must be sure, rather than sell the negative to us, you don't intend to try your luck with the Americans. After all, they do print the dollars.
Right. And you'd find a convenient place to have me killed.
Oh, no, not me. But I would certainly organize for one of your police colleagues to oblige.
Yeah, like Levy. Trouble is, I've already killed him.
Colt, beware. You want to win this game at all costs. Settle for an honorable draw, and I promise you will get your $1 million.
What's your word worth?
Enough for you to get your money.
Inspector Colt. Where is the lighter?
So Colt tells him the lighter is in the handbag at the prostitute's place. So they go to, so basically what they do is like, all right, you're going to meet Officer McBigteeth over at a public place. He'll bring the money. Once I have the film, I'll call him, and then they'll pay you. Until then, you just stay there. So French assassin guy goes over to Mysterious apartment, breaks in, sees her sleeping, finds the lighter, and stabs her in her bed. Or so you think. What we then see is that, in fact, it's the dead guy with a wig on. So apparently she didn't get rid of the body. But since the French assassin is apparently kind of lazy about checking details, he calls this guy and says, okay, yep, I got the film. Go ahead and give him the money. But, of course, they're going to kill him anyway. So he tells Mystere to meet him at the airport, and he's going to meet her there with the money, and they got to get out of the country because he knows they're going to try to kill him. So they are following him. He gives them the slip, at which point they think they find him in a garage, and they shoot at what they think is him. But that's the same body, except they put it in one of his coats. So they basically used that body for 2 kind of misdirected assassination attempts. And so then Colt gets to the airport because he's now in a separate car, ahead of Mystere, and says, all right, I'm going to get, he tells her, I'm going to get on the flight. You get there. This is the flight you're going to take, and we'll meet, we'll be on the same plane. We'll meet in Hong Kong. So she goes, and you see Colt gets on the plane using a cops-only entrance, which she can't use. And she arrives a little bit after him and goes to get her ticket, at which point the woman that is selling the ticket, the person at the counter, gets interrupted by a phone call.
I'm leaving for Hong Kong. Did you see a man?
One moment, please. Hello? Yes. Yes. I believe it's for you.
Hello? Colt! Where are you?
At the gate. Forget about trying to follow me. I've already given them orders to hold you in customs. Look, sweetheart, I've been thinking. Everyone's got their rules but me. I've been sticking my neck out too long. Now's my chance to take the money and run. Follow my advice, huh? Keep making them pay big. Because men aren't worth it. Ciao, baby.
Now, this was the intended end of the movie. It was supposed to end like this, that Colt runs out with the money and screws him.
That's a good ending. I'll give him that. Like, you don't expect it.
It is a good ending. But apparently the producer said, no, you can't end the movie that way. So you have to have something happen because she's just been screwed over and people aren't going to be happy. So then we get an epilogue sequence, which is bolted onto the end. And it says epilogue. So it was obvious that the movie was intended to end that way, which I agree would have been a great ending. I don't have a problem with the ending as it was, or as it is, but that would have been a great ending too. So really, you could just stop watching the movie there, and the movie's done. Like, it's wrapped up. So then we get an epilogue, and now we're in Hong Kong, and Colt is in Hong Kong as a big American spender, and he basically is in a restaurant, and this guy comes over and says, take your pick of the women, and he's like, well, I do like them exotic, and he points at a local Hong Kong girl, and is having her sent up to his room. So he's laying there, and the door knock happens, and he opens the door, and there's Mystere with a gun. And she says, yep, took me a little while to find you, but, I want my money. And so she pulls the gun on him, and, she says, all right, now take off all your clothes. And he's like, why? And she's like, because I'm going to have my fun with you. And so they have sex, and they're laying there. And they're talking, and they're basically agreeing that, they're kind of made for each other because they both just do whatever they want. So maybe they'll just stick together for a while. At which point, Colt orders room service, and the room service arrives. And wouldn't you know it, it's the French assassin guy. And we get this, which I actually kind of like this as a bit of ending dialogue to the movie where he comes in the room, and he's been tracking them too.
Room service.
Come in.
It took me some time to find you. But in this game, you have to be patient.
Never leave anything behind. Isn't that so, Ivanov?
Bravo. I see you are learning the lesson by heart.
What do you want to kill us for? Didn't you get what you wanted?
My superiors have, but not me. Where's the money?
I see you've learned the lesson, too.
Sure, why not? Dollars are better than rubles. I'm sorry, but my plans for the future don't include any partners. Where's the money?
So he goes to get the money from under the bed where it's hidden. And, of course, then Colt kind of jumps on him, and they start fighting. And then it devolves into a martial arts fight when the gun gets knocked away and the guy pulls a knife, and then Colt has nunchucks, and they're kind of flipping each other around in the room. And it's just this wild thing. And then Mystere grabs the gun and distracts whatever Ivanov, whatever his name is. And Colt basically grabs him because I thought, okay, she's going to shoot him. But instead, Colt grabs him and just throws him out the window to his death, and he dies. And then the next thing we see is the two of them on a boat, and they're kind of just sailing around in the ocean somewhere. And then we see a helicopter that's kind of watching them, and Officer McBigteeth is in them, and he's smiling, and he kind of points at them. And then the movie ends as they're kind of sailing around, and the KGB is chasing them. And that's the end of the movie, which also isn't a terrible ending. I don't know if it's better than the original or not, but
I think it's weaker than the original because I like that idea that basically the cop goes, you know what? This is my chance to just go.
Right.
But I do think that the other ending is more in line with kind of the Italian, it's more of the vibe of the movie, I guess.
Yeah.
The extended ending,
Yes. It's like I said, it works either way. I like it either way. But I have to say, I liked the fact that this movie it did manage to fuse two genres which normally feel very, very separated. Because, it doesn't, it's not a pure giallo. It isn't. But it also isn't a pure spy thriller because it does have those elements of the kind of the black-gloved killer who's stalking them and you never see him. And it's this idea, there's a lot of shots that look very giallo inspired, but it also does have this kind of thing where every day something's happening and there is that spy element where it's like, okay, yeah, the KGB assassinated somebody and they need to erase all evidence. And so they keep sending people after them. So it works really well. And it's only 90 minutes, so it flies by. The lead, she's so interesting because she has such a specific look. And the fact that she operates very independently. Like her and Colt do make sense together because each of them is kind of a rogue agent of themselves on their own. And so you sort of see who else would you end up with, but somebody else who was such an independent type of person. So you don't imagine they'd ever get married or anything, but it's almost like they would be on the run together for a long time and it would work.
Yeah.
Like I sort of like it. It's eventually one of them would probably kill the other. I mean, that does seem where it would end up. But, they'll have a lot of adventures and sex along the way. So whatever. There's worse lives. So I really like it. I thought it was an interesting movie. I didn't expect it to be as effective as it was. I thought it was going to be kind of all right, this is a silly film, but let's see. But then as soon as she shows up, it's like, holy shit, you just want to see this woman doing everything. And I like the fact that they didn't just sexualize her. They didn't just make it where she's nude in every scene and that's the appeal. No, in fact...
No, she actually has a personality.
She has a personality. She's very competent. She's making her own decisions. I love that she shows up at the end with the gun. I really didn't think that's what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to go on. I thought he was going to get killed and then they were going to come after her. But then when she shows up and she's like, strip, I'm like, oh, this is taking a turn. Okay. But yeah, why not? Because... everybody else in her life, all the other men that we ever see her with are either just guys paying her for sex or they're just trivial, dumb, completely consumed with their penis type of men. There's nobody who seems to have another motive when they encounter her. They're all either driven, well, they all are driven by wanting to have sex with her. So that's purely the only thing they're operating on. So she's bored of them. There's nothing to them but that. And Colt
he doesn't want her.
Until the ending where basically she becomes dominant over him, he has no interest in her. So it is almost the fact that even he is just kind of going through submissive women and telling himself that he finds white girls boring. I don't even know what that was about, but I think that was to basically try to tell you that there would be no romantic thing for them, and so the surprise is when they get together at the end. But even there, that's the thing, is he's the only person who has any challenge for her because he doesn't have any interest in that way. And so that makes her interested in him. So a lot of it just works for me. I like it. It's just an interesting, he's fine. You could have anybody in his role. There's nothing really special about him necessarily. But she's so good that she carries the whole movie. And it does work as this combination. It's really, I think when I did my short review, I said it's like 60-40 or 70-30 spy film to giallo, which I think it is definitely more of a spy film after that initial 15 minutes. It becomes, because again, the thing where prostitutes are being murdered, guy you don't see, black gloves, knife, that's all classic Italian slasher stuff. But that's only really the setup. And then it becomes everybody's chasing the negatives. You know what I mean? It's like The Rock.
Yeah,
where they want the JFK footage or whatever that got Connery thrown in prison. It's that type of thing. And so that becomes most of the second half of the movie, but it does work. And it does have the classic kind of, it's the evil Russians, they'll kill anybody in their way. And, the thing where he says, well, my superiors have the film, so they don't care about you anymore. But it's personal for me because you got away from me, that kind of thing. I like all that stuff. It all works. It's not anything original. You can't pretend it's anything that hasn't been done before.
No, but it's fun. Just because it's not original doesn't mean it can't be a lot of fun to watch.
Well, and plus the thing is that because
and
she's so good as the lead,
to take some of the turns it did.
Yes, I really didn't think he was going to screw her over. I thought, okay, well, I think at one point I had the thought where I'm like, well, if this movie has any stones, then he'll kill her and he'll take the money and run. Well, he didn't kill her, but he did go on the run. And it makes sense where, this character is like, screw it. I can make a bunch of money and I can get the hell out of here. And I can go to another country and I can, not be a cop. Fine, I'll go. There is kind of this commentary on police too, because the assassin used to be a cop. The cop in this movie is like, fuck it, I'll take the money and run. So it's almost like, yeah, the cops, they're no better. It doesn't explicitly say that, but it's, Jesus Christ, every cop you see except one, no, actually even the one, every cop you see has a corrupt motive. Colt takes the money and goes. The Interpol guy is working for the Russians.
But Colt is slightly better because he does it because he knows that nobody will back him up.
Well, there is that. No,
I might get a knife in the back. He doesn't trust any of them.
I'm not saying it says all cops are evil. What I'm saying is every cop we see has an ulterior motive that has nothing to do with justice. Because the cop who says to the girl, lock up the place when you leave, his first thing is, well, if you want to come home with me, you can call him afterwards. And when she says no, he's like, all right, then lock up when you leave. So it's like, again, everybody has a scummy motive in this movie. There are no pure characters by any of the kind of traditional metrics. I mean, the best in terms of morality characters are the prostitutes. They're the ones who are basically just doing what they want because, they refuse who they want. They sleep with who they want. They make a bunch of money doing it. They're not shown to be being abused. I mean, so of all the characters, the ones who seem to be on the highest moral plane are the prostitutes, which for 1983 in an Italian film, that's unusual. So again, the movie really surprised me because I liked it a lot better than I thought I would because I saw the same thing. I saw that cover and just the way she's looking. And I'm like, okay, if nothing else, this woman is going to be amazing to look at. But instead, she's the whole movie. And she's great because, again, it didn't trivialize her, which I was kind of surprised because that's where it seemed like it was going to be going. But it really never does. So, and it's free. You can watch it on Tubi. You can watch it. Anyway, I have to see if there's a Blu-ray of it because I'll buy this. I mean, this is a movie I would probably watch from time to time because I liked it. I don't know if it has a high definition release. Let's see. But like I said, you can watch it basically on almost any service around. There is a Blu-ray of it. Or is this just a DVD?
Does it come with anything extra?
Oh, Vinegar Syndrome. My people. You know what? I wouldn't even care if it did or didn't. Because I just found the movie to be fun. But let's see. Since it's Vinegar Syndrome, maybe it does. Do they still carry it? Let's see if it has any extras. Because, I did read that. Oh, yeah, here it is. Yeah. Forgotten Jolly. Oh, it's part of a Forgotten Jolly series. Yeah, see, I wouldn't classify this. That's interesting. To put it in with Jalo, Oh, this also has Sweets from a Stranger, which I've also heard is good. A bicycle-riding, razor-wielding killer is stalking and slashing Rome's ladies of the night. See? This is what the Italians do, man. My people love killing prostitutes. All right, yeah, so... Whoa. Okay, I'm going to buy this set. Because the other movie is Obsession, A Taste for Fear, set in a semi-futuristic technology-infused world.
How many movies is this?
There's 3. Mystere, Sweets from a Stranger, which I was already planning to watch, and then Obsession, A Taste for Fear. Diane is a top photographer for erotic and fashion magazines whose sexually liberated lifestyle carries over to her work. Oh my God, is this Italian too? Please tell me it is. It has to be. This has got to be an Italian film.
Well, isn't it part of the Giallo collection?
Well, it is, but no, other people made Giallos. It wasn't just Italians, but it mostly was. Let's see. Okay, well, the alternate title appears to be Italian, and survey says Italian! Yes! I'll be buying this.
Well, you know what? On that that's a good positive note to end on. Because
Yes, it
I don't think
is.
we're gonna go anywhere. It's not gonna get any better than that at this point.
No. So yeah, I will be watching these other two movies. So look for those as future reviews. Oh joy. Oh man. I love finding that stuff's available. That's great. Yep. On that note, everybody, go watch Dagger Eyes because you can watch it for free and it's a whole lot of fun. And on that note, whatever you do this weekend, have a good time and try to do something to, if you're in the U.S. especially, just try to do something to stave off the negativity because there are still fun things to be found out there. Don't watch the news for a couple days. Instead, watch Dagger Eyes. You'll have a lot more fun, and yeah, it'll just be better for you mentally. On that note, we'll talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.